How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Grand Archive World Championship here in sunny Las Vegas. My name is Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue, and I am joined here in the booth by none other than Dan. How are you doing today, Dan?
What's up, everyone? It's Dan from Main Deck, and I am doing great. I cannot wait for the beginning of the Grand Archive World Championship today. This is going to be an incredible event. 7 rounds today, non-stop, no breaks, a true endurance test for these top-tier players. 16 of the best players in the world are coming here. 8 from North America, 4 from Oceania, and 4 from the Southeast Asia region.
Math adds up. Yes.
Yes. I did the math beforehand. We have a cool format today. Kel, do you want to tell everyone about the format that's being played?
Yeah. So the overall format is going to be quite interesting, right? So we have day 1 today, and as Dan said, we have 7 rounds. But going into day 2, it's going to be a little bit different because this is something that I personally haven't seen happen in a lot of trading card game events. In day 2, the participants who make day 2 actually have the option to change up their deck, right, Dan?
Yes. They can. Not only are they going to be able to change up their decks, but the day 1 format and the day 2 format is that no draws are basically allowed
here.
True, effectively.
Yeah. Draws are like double bad.
Draws are a double loss in today's format, which means that these players entering day 1 are entering with some, having looked at things, a fairly aggressive pool of decks because players are looking to get those decisive victories today.
Yep.
But for this day 2 switch, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, day 1 in particular is really interesting because the goal for a lot of folks here isn't just to XO, right? They just want to win enough to get to day 2.
Yes.
That's the goal. They want to get to day 2, get to top 8, and so they can kind of guarantee their spot from there. And so I imagine we'll see a lot of safer decks, right? Less high-rolly decks that are more consistent because they just want to get that X3 win record today.
When you get, with this no draws basically allowed because you're going to get a double loss, you're going to get these players who are just trying to secure their number of wins. And once they get it, they're good to go. So I'm excited to see what our pairings are going to be. Looking at the pool, it's a nice spread of champions.
It is not what you would guess, right?
Yeah.
people out there, how many Rise do you think would be at the World Championship of Grand Archive? My guess is, whatever your guess is, there's more here than that.
Yeah. We have some high-profile players playing decks that we didn't expect to see.
Oh, no.
Especially the return of Rye, the Merlin Menace still in play today. Yep. The Allies list coming in force as well. Some very fun, maybe a little more off-the-wall decks that are going to be very exciting to watch. So I cannot wait to see what our pairings are going to be.
Me too.
This is sure to be a fun experience. We go through these 7 rounds, again, endurance test, and we will see who ends up in the top 8 because at the end of the day, 8 of our players today will be eliminated. They're allowed to switch into Ascent for tomorrow if they can find some teams. So there's a little consolation event where they can go and play an Ascent after this, but then we'll have the other 8 players playing for the grand finals starting tomorrow.
Yeah, we actually have 3 full days of coverage for you. We have today, and then we have tomorrow, and then of course Sunday will be the finals.
That is the grand finals, which is going to be the most exciting thing. The players, of course, in the grand finals playing for, among other prizes, we have the Apotheosis Rite special version, effectively, of Grand Crusader's Ring, which allows you to not only draw the card as our favorite divine relic, well, most people's favorite divine relic does.
You would. Yeah, it's not yours. It's not yours.
Not mine.
It's mine. I like drawing cards, but it allows you to ascend, right?
Yes, your champion ascends, which has no game meaning.
Yeah.
But it allows you to flex on your opponent, say, I am the world champion.
Yeah, it also has like cool lore significance, right? You're ascending to a higher state. It's also like the ultimate flex, like you said. And I did catch a glimpse of something very, very cool earlier as well.
Can we talk about it? I'm not sure. I think so.
We mentioned rings.
Yes.
You know what's a great kind of ring? A 14-karat ring.
Yes.
A actual golden Grand Crusader ring. And I did post about it on my socials a little bit earlier. It is beautiful, and it is something that the winner will be walking away with as well.
Yeah, I mean, belts are cool. Rings.
Right, yeah.
I like a ring, though.
Rings are pretty classy. Yeah, I agree. Belts are cool, but rings just have that extra little panache, right?
Yeah, I agree. So the winner is going to be walking away with not only the Apotheosis Rite ring card, but an actual 14-karat gold Grand Crusaders ring that they can wear or just show off or do whatever they want to. So, there's a lot on the line today. But I think among all of those, the prestige of becoming the
Without a doubt.
the first Grand Archive World Champion today, and well, not today, in 2 days we'll find out.
Right, yeah.
But today, winners have to make it through in order to get there. So we're going to be finding our pairings, I think, fairly soon,
Yes.
and we are going to be cruising into our first match, where I'm sure it's going to be an exciting match based on all of the
Oh, yeah.
the deck lists that we've seen.
You mentioned it before. Best players in the world. There's a lot of spicy decks out there. If you like Rye, there's a good chance you're gonna have a great time this weekend. And, honestly, I think you're gonna have a great time anyway. We have 7 excellent rounds of like the highest tier Grand Archive that you can possibly imagine.
Yes, and these matches too, with a fairly high focus on aggression, should
Yes.
have the chance of being actually fairly quick. I'm very interested to see, but at the same time, high level players tend to be able to play into their outs a lot better, drag the game out a little bit more. So it'll be really fun. I can't wait to see how these decks play out.
I agreed. I think there's some really interesting matchups that could possibly happen. I'm really curious to see what the brackets kind of shake out as. Because at the time, right now, Dan and I have not seen like the full brackets quite yet. So I think it's going to be like a really interesting thing. Actually, I heard just now that we might actually have the pairings.
Let's get our introduction for our first player.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So Lime, what Southeast Asian country are you from?
I'm actually from Australia. It's a little island down south that's got nothing to do with Southeast Asia. It's actually Oceania, but we'll take it. Hey guys, my name's Jason, aka Limelight from the Discord. I am from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm excited to get involved in Worlds. The reason why I play Grand Archive is we have a very tight community currently in Australia. We have a lot of fun playing together, and it is this very tight-knit. In general, the Grand Archive community as a whole is very tight-knit, and it's a very big family feel. And I think it helps fire the passion to keep playing and keep being involved, especially as someone who, I guess, is a community star that helps try to build and has been trying to help build for a long period of time now. I feel like, we're just going to keep climbing and growing, and I'm happy to be involved in Grand Archive in general. How I feel about being in the first World Championship is I'm very excited. It is a very big emotional ride for me. I never thought that I would be able to take a hobby like this to such an extreme level. I've always been a competitive person in card games. Getting a bit older now, it's kind of like an amazing situation and chance to, have fun. And I've never been to Vegas before either. So to, have people support me from obviously Australia, but in general, just the community and the Discords in general has meant a lot. And it's just kind of a dream come true and just living in the moment right now. So winning the World Championship, especially on Diana, will actually mean a lot for me as an achievement, because Diana wasn't really seeing much play except for the Allies version. And a lot of people did say in Singapore that it was a good meta call. I dodged certain matchups and stuff like that. So for me to take it to World Championships and do well and put a stamp on it will make me feel like, it's not just a meta call or RNG or something like that. It's actually a deck that can do well and is competitive compared to the other champions.
It is wonderful to hear from Jason Limelight May again about his excitement being here at the world stage. Of course, Limelight, well known in the community as one of the Discord moderators, who is just extremely passionate about the game and growing in his area. He's playing the only Diana list in the top 16, so this should be very exciting to see how he plays. Diana, of course. Kel, what do you think are Diana's matchups? What is Lime looking to face with this list he's got today?
I think he would be very happy to face any of the Rise. I think that's pretty safe bet, and the Merlins as well. These decks that might take a little bit more time to set up, and he can kind of just go ham with all of his fast firing and his aggressive allies there.
Yes, Limelight in particular with Demon's Aim in the main, an excellent card for getting around a deer, a majestic spirit that might be in your way. Mindbreak Bullet also, he's going the full kind of Umbra package, going deep with that. Mindbreak Bullet is great at hating on Rise kill cards, hating on Luxum's kill cards, just taking them out of the equation. Umbral Tithe closes the game, Falstep protects him, and of course, the Four of Carter, one of the most expensive cards in the game right now, due to it's incredible desirability for dealing with these ally matchups.
It's an incredibly efficient way to deal with allies, right?
Yes.
He has built-in cleave. He's only a 2-drop, and if you can pump him through his either his own effect or maybe something spicy that Lime might be running in his sideboard, you can have a very, very big, 2, 3, 4 for 1, which is a really, really important in Grand Archive.
Yes, it's very exciting to see. We still haven't gotten the second pairing yet, so don't know what Jason is playing against, but he does have a number, I think, of very effective matchups in this. So depending on who he's against, he may be the favored one. But the thing about Diana is Diana has to get to that level 3 to really pop off. So it's going to be a struggle depending on how his cards turn out, and it's going to be an exciting match, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a toss-up when you're running so many advanced element cards in your deck, for sure.
So we are going to be seeing player 2 here shortly. Let's see what our second player is.
Check it out.
Hey everyone, my name's Glenn Williams, also known as Glenny Boy. I'm from New Zealand in Wellington, and the first seed of the Oceanic representatives. Oh mate, I'm so excited. This has been an absolute dream come true. Like coming out to America for the first time, being all paid for, and then having a chance to play for a 50 grand prize pool. It's absolutely unreal. This is amazing. I can't believe it still. Winning Oceania, that was like a dream come true. But now stepping into the world stage, every single player is going to be at a top tier level. Like the nationals itself was quite difficult. There was a lot of high level players there. But now we're playing against national winners or national finalists. It's going to be very, very intense here. So confidence wise, it's there, but it's also not there at the same time. Winning the world championship, becoming the best player in GA, it's so close, but it's also so far away. We'll have to see what happens, but that would be, next level. I wouldn't even know what to do.
Okay, so we have Glenny Boy Williams.
Yeah, I love it.
Another member of Creative Shock. So this is actually quite a struggle for the first match where Lime and Glenn have to face each other.
Both flew across the Pacific Ocean just to face each other round 1 at the World Championship.
Isn't that how it always goes, though?
Oh, it
when
is.
you travel for an event.
Classic story.
And this is going to be an interesting match because, as we were mentioning earlier, against Merlin, Diana does have the innate ability to drop those creeping torments on her and prevent her make her actually just deal damage to herself every 2 turns when she gets to draw her card normally. So the list, however, that Glenny Boy Williams is running some interesting tech here. 2 exercise curses in the main.
In the main deck, right?
Which is sometimes happens, but not always. But that is going to be a way that Glenny Boy is able to remove those creeping torments that Line might be dropping on him. Also, the interesting thing here is 2 Devastating Blow and 2 Tether and Flames to join the 4 Fireballs as a total of 8 dunk cards. How do you feel about Glenny Boy's particular build of Merlin against Diana?
I think it's actually really interesting. Like you mentioned, it does feel like he is specifically teched against Diana, including the 2 exercise curses in the main board. There's like the single 1-off Sparkleite. It's a really, really interesting deck when you look at it. There's like the 1-off Blanche, and then you also have the Blanche in the sideboard. I think these players, I know these players have played against each other tons and tons and tons of times.
So much. So
like this is going to be one of those sort of play test sessions that they've done like millions of times before, but this one has real stakes. And they know going into this, who's the favored, who's the not.
They know 100%. They've run the numbers on these matchups. But these players, the nice thing, I guess it's kind of sad to go against your teammate, but the nice thing is for your first round at the major event, being on a stream match, the nerves are usually higher than ever.
True.
But getting to play with an opponent who you've played 1,000 times before and respect and understand can at least have a little impact on lessening the nerves. So hopefully these 2 players understand that, this isn't going to knock either player out of the running. Again, you're still looking to get those 4 wins, 3 losses in order to make sure that you can make it in the top cut. So this is going to be an important match for them regardless, but one where hopefully the 2 will still have fun.
Yeah, it also means, like, on the flip side, if you want to look on the positive note, it means one of them will win, right?
Yes.
So that's
they
the
can't
positive
both
thing.
lose. They can't both lose.
Exactly.
Well, unless they draw.
I mean, unless they draw, right? But
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
the players know going into this that drawing is not a great place to be here. And I don't imagine either of these decks are poised to draw.
No, it does not seem that way to me. We do have the roll-off here, and it looks like Lime won the roll-off, so he's taking the first turn. Match 1, he's going to begin, of course, by putting out his Spirit of Fire. And the Spirit of Fire, I'm sure, going to be drawing 7 cards and getting Lime off to the races here.
Yeah, let's take a look at the hand of 7 here.
We have Scry the Skies. We have a couple of Crux cards.
Yeah, let's see. Just gonna start off with a nice little Scry the Skies here. It's a pretty like safe turn one play, right? You're not putting out anything that can be removed. You're just kind of like setting it up.
Oh, this is Glenny Boy. We have just a little mistake there. The players looked flipped around, but Glenny Boy is on Merlin taking the first turn. It's so tough when they both have creative shock sleeves.
They do, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Merlin taking the first turn with the Scry the Skies, passing the turn to Lime, who is then going to put out his. Of course, there's Lime with the I3.
I was gonna say, you know that's Lime because he's got the absolute flex spirit there.
Ascent Houston, the champion trophy, effectively, for making top 8 in Ascent Houston is the special version of Spirit of Fire Ithne, whose same effect, draw 7 cards. It just looks a whole lot cooler.
Agreed. Yeah, it's just the max flex version.
So Lime here looking to get some sort of, as any fire deck is looking to get some sort of advantage going right away, does have 2 dungeon guides in the hand. 3 dungeon guides in the hand.
That's a lot of dungeon guides.
That's maybe 2 more than he's hoping to see. However, the nice thing is Diana going fast is exactly what he wants to do. Kel, generally, you know, when you see these Diana matchups, you're looking to get to that level 3.
Correct,
to get the creeping torments down as soon as possible. And you know, is there anything that the Merlin player is maybe looking to do to try and stem that bleeding a little bit?
I mean, essentially, as the Merlin player, you want to live as long as possible. That's kind of like your end goal, right? You want to live as long as possible so you can kind of, you know, get to your level 3, start accruing all of your value from Merlin, and then just kind of like, you know, take it from there and kill your opponent out of nowhere. And here we have a very, very classic play, right, Dan? This is your Library Witch who just gets immediately thrown into the fire, and you get your nice little 3-card draw.
Yep. Cremation Ritual, sack an ally to draw 2, combined with Library Witch for a 3-card draw. So that doesn't mean that Lime just passed the turn entirely. A hand that I can't quite tell. I think those are some Umbra cards in conjunction with the dungeon guides, not quite having what we need. There we go. We have the things are flipped around, and they make a little more sense to our brains right now, which is excellent. So we have a Hasty Messenger now coming down, following the Cremation Ritual. This is the fire start that you dream of at night. What you're looking for.
This is like textbook, right? You attack with your Hasty, discard a card with Floating Memory. You're kind of like setting up your your bin for Floating Memory. It's just very much what you want to be.
So Lime playing the promo Sparkleite, dealing some damage to the Hasty Messenger. Take the Hasty Messenger out. You cannot stop, unfortunately, the Hasty Messenger from drawing a card because it is a non-attack trigger, and the player playing the turn has the opportunity to declare that attack. But as soon as Lime was able to, he made sure to drop that Sparkleite onto the Hasty Messenger to prevent that advantage from growing.
Yep. Not only that is he needs cards in his memory so he can level up here.
Yep. There's the level. So the Sparkleite was at end of Lime's turn, and then we have the Diana level up.
Yeah, and so we have pretty kind of like, I would say this is a very like standard back and forth here.
Yeah. Right.
Like nothing too crazy going on. If you play these decks in Grand Archive, this is kind of what you want to see. Level 1 Diana not doing anything currently other than enabling class bonus stuff, but later we're going to see that effect coming into play, getting a nice little gun at some point.
Diana has the rare lineage release ability. So this is a dungeon guide now. Yeah. Lime is dropping the dungeon guide immediately because Lime is ready to go to 3 as fast as possible. So going straight from Diana 1 into Diana 2.
Yeah, and we have is that a taser shot?
That is a taser shot.
Taser shot is a pretty powerful bullet that doesn't do a ton of damage baseline, but has a really nasty on-hit effect that really punishes your opponent for leveling up, especially if they intend to level up multiple times in a turn. So hitting with a taser shot can be pretty debilitating, oftentimes dissuading their opponent from leveling up at all.
This is remarkable right now, actually. We're just going to... Lime's just going to go straight to 3.
Double dungeon guide,
the turn 2 level straight to 3 with his 2 He sees his hand of 3 dungeon guides and I guess just goes, what am I going to do this game except go to 3 right now?
Immediately... Oh, go ahead.
No, the advantage, the advantage of Diana, of course, being that Diana's with her guns and bullets is able to play directly from the material deck a lot of the time, not actually needing to have the cards in hand to compete. So Lime immediately
This is a spicy. This is a
lineage
spicy one.
releases the Shadows Twin, goes for the taser shot with Merlin cards down, unable to interact.
All right, yeah. So let's, for those of you who don't know,
Wow.
Shadow's Twin is a gun that gets, a nice little buff whenever it gets loaded, right? But the more important part is when it hits, it will apply those on hits twice. And so we got the Diana on hit twice, created the 2 Creeping Torments, and we also have the taser shot on hit that is now applied twice.
Taser shot. Double taser shot on a level 0 spirit. So
That's rough.
Merlin decides not to level, of course, because taking 8 damage would just be a little too much right now.
You would be dead.
You'd be
With 15 health, you'd be dead.
that would be death.
Yes, yeah.
The Tariff Ring is the only logical play here because with Diana so down on cards now, that may slow Lime's roll a little bit. But
Yeah.
Lime looking just to shoot as much as possible. The Exercise Curses out of the main,
Oh, wow, yeah. That
right there.
immediately comes into play, and he really needed it, actually.
Yes.
Right, it was just 2 of main boards, so that's pretty good timing there. Here we have another attack and filter, discarding another floating memory card, which is always nice. Though that floating memory is not active until he has the class bonus.
No, and Lime may make it very difficult for that class bonus to become active here.
Yes. If he can keep doing the taser shot and keeping him off leveling up, that's like doubly bad because it prevents them from, gaining that extra life that comes inherently with leveling up.
Yes, as long as Lime is able to pull off double hit effect taser shots on to the spirit, there's no way that Glenn is able to level up. So Glenn needs to find a way to stop it. Now, with the combination of Tariff Ring and the Library Witch to intercept, that would get there if the dungeon guides did not exist to hit the Library Witch as well. Lime goes for a Quicksilver Grail and is going to find something spicy to put under.
Interesting. What do you think he's going to choose for the Quicksilver Grail?
I'm not entirely sure what,
Yeah, looking at his
could be a
material
bullet.
deck,
It
yeah.
could be
His flash grenade, bullet.
the smoke bombs could stop the
Smoke
intercept.
bombs for sure. Yeah,
But
that could
does
be
he
it.
need to do that with the dungeon guide in play? I'm not entirely sure what Lime is playing around with the Quicksilver Grail, but I'm also not sure what he would have chosen. I would know he didn't choose the bullet. If he's going to shoot this turn, the Quicksilver will need a bullet. Because he can't put a bullet down from hand if I don't even think he has any in the no, he does. He does play Incendiary Shot.
Yeah.
So, but he can't both play a bullet from hand and attack with the Tariff Ring popped in Recollection there. Yeah, so it's not a smoke bombs attacking the Library Witch with the dungeon guide,
Just
drawing
kind of
cards.
clearing it up.
for
Yeah.
Glenn.
All right.
Glenn, a resolute stand could potentially help him here too.
So this is Glenn's opportunity to level up, right? This is his window.
Yep.
He needs to level up before he starts getting double taser shotted again.
Yep.
Um,
Lime just waits out the Tariff Ring, just decides, okay, that's fine. You can have it. I'm going to set up with Quicksilver. We're gonna be ready to go next turn.
now, this is like I mentioned, this is Glenn's opportunity, right? Jason Lime, he's down on cards. He has very few cards in hand, very few cards in memory. He's just got the 2 dungeon guides out.
Yep.
The Shadow Twin is still very, very threatening, but Glenn's sitting here with a massive grip of cards. He now has a lot of options, and Blanche here coming down. Blanche can be a pretty big game. Being able to prevent damage equal to the cards in your memory for non-attack damage.
Creeping Torment is I was just trying to pull it up here. I believe Creeping Torment is unpreventable damage.
I think you are right. I think Creeping Torment does 2 unpreventable damage. In which case, Blanche would not help against that.
Yeah, and I'm not quite certain.
It is unpreventable.
Yes, yeah, we have 2 unpreventable damage
yeah.
from Creeping Torment. So the Blanche is purely a cremation
Oh, yeah,
target.
just eat her.
actually.
Yeah, get into the
Sorry,
fire.
You're out of here, Blanche. Just to draw more cards. Glenn is really against the ropes right away, which makes sense. That's really Diana's game plan against Merlin. If you need to start generating those Creeping Torments as soon as possible because with a deck full of things like Cremation Ritual, Scry the Skies, and everything, if Glenn is going to pull out of this, he's going to need to dig into his deck.
Yeah, he saw a Library Witch on the top. Gonna go, put the Library Witch into the memory.
Witches having intercept can sometimes be quite a huge thing too, but you have to get through those dungeon guides first. And the Tariff Ring was a great way to stop that for one turn, but Lime materializing Taser Shot, Lime knows exactly what he's doing this turn. He's going to take aim and fire. Once again, loads the Taser Shot into the Shadow Twin. Shadow Twin triggers, gets the extra damage. Diana's not distant this time, so it won't be quite as much damage, but we'll still double hit the Taser Shot if this damage can't be prevented. But the thing is now, with the damage lowered down to to the let's see, what are we at? 5? 5 should be 5 damage, I think.
Let's see. It gets +2 from the load effect,
Plus 2, and then 1 from the Shadow Swing. So you'd be at a 5 damage shot. It would take 2 Resolute Stands to completely prevent the damage and prevent the Taser Shot trigger from going off. No prevention whatsoever. So we do have 2 Creeping Torments attaching to Lorraine's lineage again, as well as the damage hitting for 5, and the double Taser Shot trigger.
Yeah, I mean that double taser shot's pretty nasty, right?
Taser Shot, a remarkable card when you can get it off that early. Lime's triple dungeon guide opening hand, not looking too terrible.
I mean, we do have the classic safeguard coming on down that could help prevent a lot of damage in a future turn for sure.
It could prevent. I think it could prevent Umbral Tithe damage. There's probably a couple things in here that might be useful for it to hit, but a lot of Diana's damage is either unpreventable or attack damage. But at that point, when you can't level, your options aren't really that good. You've already used the Tariff Ring.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to find whatever edge you can get.
It is important to note, for those who don't know, that Taser Shot is also unpreventable damage.
Yes, Taser Shot is also unpreventable.
Just good old Library Witch. We'll see how long she lasts. They don't have a track record of living past a turn or so.
We do have 1 dungeon guide down, and if we can clear those dungeon guides fast enough, we can get there. But this, depending on what we're holding in hand, this is potentially a kill turn for Diana.
Yeah, so we have the dungeon guide coming in, attempting to clean up the board. Ooh.
There is a Resolute Stand. This is the VTuber promo Resolute Stand.
Yeah, I really like the Resolute Stand on the dungeon guide.
Yes.
It's going to make it really, really annoying to kill, and basically going to buy Glenn an entire turn.
Yep. Resolute Stand on Dungeon Guide, a clutch play. Not one that players immediately think about all the time. You immediately latch on to Resolute Stand as a play onto your champion, but on an Interceptor, it can be huge. If Lime did Quicksilver the Smoke Bombs here, that might be the greatest play.
Oh, we'll have to see.
But no, it looks like he goes for the shot, takes the shot onto the Library Witch, taking care of it.
Yep.
I'm wondering what is under that Quicksilver
Yeah,
Grail.
me too. Looking at his list, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, it could be a smoke bomb. Maybe he's saving it for like an actual turn where he can guarantee a kill.
Sure.
But we'll see.
It potentially, potentially could be a flash grenade in case Lime was trying to set up for Merlin trying to push damage back on him. Although that'd be a very cautious play for a player who's going very deep into the game right now. We have an airship engineer coming down. No way to give a distance.
Yeah, I think it's just a 1-2 here.
Just a 1-2 to help clear Library, which is off the board. Merlin is making it to 2 now.
Yeah, I mean, once you start get to 2, I mean, 3 is the real scary, but he's only 1 away, and here we go.
There it is.
Straight to 3.
So what we see here, a game that looked for a lot of players, I think, potentially unwinnable from Glenn's side as soon as Jason started shooting with Diana's gun at level 2. That's, for most people, that might be the end of the game for you. You might just scoop it all up. But Glenn has managed to use the cards he has to play out to reaching level 3 with still a remarkably large hand, even though he does have those Creeping Torments on him. Now, those Creeping Torments are going to represent a slow kill at the very least, because at level 3, we're going the exercise curses, or what are we doing here? I'm trying to figure out where we were grabbing those from. There's the floating memory.
So he's still leveling up, paying
still
for
in
the
the
floating
process
memory.
of leveling up.
Yeah, and let's see. I mean, like you said, I mean, going from level 1 all the way to 3 represents a massive, massive life gain.
Yes.
A life threshold. And for a deck that Lime is playing, he's trying to be aggressive, trying to kill your opponent. This is a fairly large setback, right? The kill shot window is much, much bigger. It's going to be very, very difficult to like close that gap with the amount of cards he has currently.
Can no longer rely on the taser shot to represent the 8 damage to absolutely remove that threshold from the equation now. So Lime will likely have to move to Plated Bullet just to deal a little more damage.
Yep, Plated Bullet coming in for 2 damage instead of the 1.
1 extra damage on top of it. So I think Glenn looking now to try, and he does have the Incarnate Majesty in hand. If Glenn can get the Majesty down, it will become tricky for Lime to take the game out.
That'll be very hard.
Lime does play the Smoke Bombs, though.
That's true.
Bombs.
Yeah,
That's
we still don't know if the Smoke Bombs are underneath the Quicksilver, but he does have them at least in his material deck. Here we have one of the most powerful cards in the game. I don't think that's even within question.
Crux is fine. Crux is fine.
Yeah. It's just a card that's a 3/4 for lets you draw some cards and stuff. Don't worry about it.
Ghost of Pendragon, the card that you need to play in the Merlin matchup right now, just to draw your cards, build up to that Incarnate Majesty. The Safeguard Amulet available as well. If he ends up drawing into a second Ghost of Pendragon, you can tuck away that amulet just to draw some more cards when the amulet's not doing a ton right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna opt to just go face here.
Yep.
Apply a little bit of pressure and start that climb to take out Lime here.
You do have to apply pressure at some point, start attacking, and Merlin can get into a kill window. Again, as we mentioned in the deck list, this deck is running 8 kind of kill shot cards, but especially right now, a Devastating Blow would be devastating for Jason May.
Agreed. I mean, Devastating Blow right now is quite good just because all of the other cards really care about how high your level is.
Right.
And currently, level's not too high, but that'll change over time because of Merlin's ability to innately gain extra levels, draw cards. But like you said, yeah, Devastating Blow would be quite good. We do see. Is that another?
There's another Resolute
another
stand on
here.
the plate. Of course, Jason just goes for the Materialist Plated Bullet, load and shoot immediately. Resolute stand does prevent some of the damage. A little goes through, and 2 more Creeping Torments on. So the issue now is that Merlin has reached 21 and has 4 Creeping Torments on her, which means as soon as she gets a second level counter, unless she can find a way to heal or exercise those curses, the game is over. The Carter coming down
okay.
as well.
This is big. So Carter comes in, sacks, gets that automaton bonus, right? Gets that +2, comes in, wipes the board, and now Jason's gonna be able to gain a bunch of life from Carter's effect.
Jason gain life. Pop the Bauble of Abundance under the Quicksilver for the kill.
Bauble of Abundance.
Yep.
Wow, nice.
Bauble of Abundance it became a Diana staple card because of its ability to force your opponent to draw. So as soon as Lime nailed on those 2 more Creeping Torments, it became a clear win for him. You pop the Bauble, your opponent must draw a second card on their turn, and the game is over.
Yep, and if you don't know, like if you draw, was it the second card, you will
take
2 damage for every single Creeping Torment.
Per Creeping Torment.
And so that was what
8
4
damage.
4 Creeping Torments, 8 damage.
Yep.
Unpreventable.
So it waits for the opponent, take their turn. They are forced to draw in their draw phase, and then pop it. The Resolute Stand, I believe, was paid for.
Yeah,
it must have been paid for.
I think he did. Yeah.
There is a top level strategy to not pay for the Resolute Stand,
Yes,
to not have to draw the second card. So that is a way that Glenn could have potentially gotten around, but the damage was just the pressure from the damage on the gun itself was too high. You had to play into it.
Oh yeah, I mean that Shadow Swim put in a ton of work. That's likely one of like the MVP cards of that round, because being able to, having that 5 durability, being able to fire it off so many times, applying all the pressure from the taser shot, followed up by the plated bullet. Yeah, Diana, pew pew.
Pew pew is exactly what happens. Diana actually, the thing I love about that champion is that a lot of champions in this game, you want to be careful with leveling to make sure you don't go down too far in cards or you can no longer play the game. But Diana, one of the few champions who, if you see 2 dungeon guides in your opening hand, turn 2, you can just go to level 3, you go down to 2 cards in hand, it's not a big deal. You play out of the material deck, you play a bullet, you play a Shadow's Twin, you just get going and immediately start shooting.
It's just so much damage. Like getting that distant on the level 3 level up, getting that extra 2 points of damage on the turn where you're going to be firing off your gun. Like it's just applies so much damage, so much pressure, especially if you can get like the double taser shot like we saw, limiting your opponent's ability to level up and increase their health total. Yeah, I mean, Diana's a very, very strong champion. And what's important to note is like Lime is the only person who brought Diana to the World Championship, at least on day 1.
Yep, the only day one, only on day 1. But we'll see. We'll see if maybe people like the odds of Diana. If Jason does well today, some of these remaining players might choose to join him in the, let me see if I can draw 2 dungeon guides.
Right.
And
didn't he have like 3 dungeon guides?
3 dungeon guides.
That's
3
wild.
dungeon guides.
Yeah.
Yep. So we had both players have a chance to sideboard here. Kel, do you have anything that you, as an experienced Merlin player, anything from the sideboard that Glenn brought here that you think Glenn might be looking to play in this game to try and interact with Diana a little bit more?
All right, let's take a look at the sideboard. Let's see. He's running Vanish from Sight.
Vanish from Sight, is Lime even playing? Is Lime even playing Secret? Lime is playing Seeker's Rifle, so Lime does have a way around Vanishes, but if Lime goes for the Shadow's Twin play, that Vanish from Sight can be clutch.
Yeah, I think looking at the sideboard, I think that's the one that really stands out to me. Unfortunately, Blanche, like we mentioned before, doesn't really help with the damage that's unpreventable.
No, the Spurn to Ash, though.
That's the other one I was looking at, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I was pegging right away. If Lime's, of course, respecting that removal, playing for Deploy Gun Shield in the main.
Yes.
But that Spurn to Ash may be a route for Glenn to maybe catch Jason without the Deploy Gun Shield and take the gun out and put him back, build the time that you need so that you can start to actually take the game over as Merlin.
Yeah, and we should know, I'm not sure if we mentioned this already, but we do have open deck lists, right?
Yes, both players. Well, at least players knew, I'm sure.
Right, yeah, I'm sure they knew ahead of time, but all the players know
Yes.
what's going on here.
So we have Glenn, of course, taking the play on the second game and trying to just build some momentum. As Merlin, you're looking to have the play here because you need to level up faster than Lime can level up to 3 and start shooting you down. He starts off with a pretty simple fire turn, which is just a Flame Rune Swordsman in play, and of course no attacks because there's no Spirit from Jason May in play yet.
Yep, and I do like them, Glenn just running out the 2/2 here, right? It's just a body on board. It's not a great one to kill, right? Because it does get that floating memory value. So it's just something that he can attack with and maybe help clear up the board a little bit to just buy him some time, essentially.
Jason's turn 1, playing Eithne, drawing 7 and passing. Looks like he does have Creative Shock in hand, so he's going to be doing some end step nonsense, very likely.
Doing the namesake of both of their teams, right?
Yes, the Creative Shock, of course. And then passing back, of course, to Glenn, who materials is Lorraine level 1, gets the Sword of Seeking, and attacks with the Flame Rune Swordsman. Coming in, deals 2 damage to Jason, and then it did its job. It is gone.
Yeah.
Cremation Ritual, let's draw a couple cards.
I mean, that's a lot of value, right? 2 damage, and then, draw some cards, have that floating memory. Just great value here. And ooh, here we have
Savage Slash. Put the pressure on.
3 more damage coming on in.
We don't have to wait for level 3 to go off with Fire Merlin. We can just start attacking right now. Put the damage on. With this, one of the advantages of running things like Savage Slash in your deck, you can actually push damage a little bit faster while still building that floating memory that you need to get to your higher levels.
Like having the 2 floating memory now is like pretty nice, right? As a deck that really wants to level up as much as they possibly can. I also want to note that really nice shiny Creative Shock,
of course,
coming on in.
Well, if you're on Team Creative Shock, I feel like you have to have it.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I'll be honest. Like Lime's deck is like almost as flex as you can get, right? You have your CSRs, you have your Einth. It's a pretty shiny.
I'd say the deck matches the personality, and I mean that in the most loving way possible.
I agree. Yes.
We have a level up to Diana level 1.
Is it a Juggle Knives?
Juggle Knives in the Recollection phase, just to get a little damage, draw another card.
Yeah. I don't mind that.
And we are going to draw into a Faskier, promo Faskier. We're going straight.
Dungeon
of course,
Guide.
What else would we do right now?
Dungeon Guide. I see another Dungeon Guide in hand as well. Of course, the beautiful promo Dungeon Guide.
Another Dungeon Guide, meaning we are likely, folks, to see a repeat performance of Game 1 here. Jason probably loving his draws right now.
Dan, do you think he just sends it this turn? Do you think he goes Dungeon Guide into second Dungeon Guide immediately? It's going to rip a lot of cards from his hand. But
I don't think there's a question. In my opinion, at least in this state, it was so effective last game. Now he did get it while his opponent was on Spirit. Getting it on Spirit is like a massive game. Now the Taser Shot doesn't directly kill, but it's just there. It is.
No question. Just jamming it down.
It's just too much damage. I think you force your opponent to start to play around it, to start to respect what's happening on the board, and when you can force them to have to play defensively, he can take that pressure off immediately and actually even take a little bit of his opponent's build value. The one thing about Fire is if you let them if you sit there, you don't put pressure on, they'll just build a 10, 12 card hand and then they'll have everything that they need. You need to actually put pressure on.
Yeah, and then just on the base level too, just enabling the rest of your deck, right? Having access to the Umbra element, which is really important to Lime's deck, is just super good. So even though he went down in overall influence, he doesn't have a single dead draw anymore. Yeah,
Lime with 16 Umbra cards in the deck, unless any were boarded out here potentially. But that is obviously, if you're going to have such a small hand, you want to be able to play anything that you get. So getting to 3 certainly where to be right now.
Yeah.
Creeping Torment's on it, and if you didn't get enough of it the first time, on Glenn's turn, he is going to put a Terrafring out.
Yep.
And then draw the Terrafring, hopefully getting a Witch in play, because Terrafring Witch will once again completely stymie Jason, not having the cards to fight through it.
I think I see a Witch in hand, though.
Well, he drew. I think he drew into one last time. We'll have to see.
Yeah, he does have options. Definitely.
I see a Purge in Flames, which would be a little helpful right now, just for clearing the Intercept killers off the board. There's a Dungeon Guide.
A very sad Dungeon Guide.
A very sad Dungeon Guide with a double Taser Shot on you. You're not looking to Dungeon Guide right now.
All right, he's kind of like, all right.
There's a Shield Mate.
So he's a Shield Mate instead of a Shield Mate instead of a Witch.
Shield Mate
does
does the trick here. Again, that Smoke Bombs is a potential. I think the Smoke Bombs is a potential play.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that is definitely a line of play that that Lime could take here just to circumvent that, especially when the life totals are, pretty low at this point still. Like with 9 damage on him.
Yeah.
There's not unreasonable that he goes that route.
Kel, it occurs to me that the smoke bombs play is also one of those plays that isn't always quite as understood by players who are just starting to pick the game up. But smoke bombs often thought of as giving stealth to your own units to protect them from attacks. But the advantage of smoke bombs in this scenario is that by smoke bombing a unit that has intercept or taunt, you can make it an illegal attack target.
Yes.
Meaning that you are not able to direct the attack to the taunter or not able to trigger the intercept on the attack unless the attacker has true sight. So it actually disables a blocker in that scenario when used offensively like that. Which is why it's good against Majestic Spirit as well.
Yes. It's a really interesting plan. It's one of those kind of cool nuances that exists in Grand Archive that you initially wouldn't think about. And I like to think of it flavor-wise as you throw the smoke bomb, and now the shield, the Guardian is just covered in smoke, and they can't see anything, and you just kind of run around.
They can't run in front. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an advantage of Quicksilver Grail. Quicksilver Grail, honestly, I feel one of the more underrated cards in the game too. The advantage of Quicksilver Grail here is that Jason is free to put the Bauble of Abundance under as well as he is free to put the smoke bombs underneath it. And Glenn is going to be unsure as to what exactly is hiding under that Quicksilver Grail, which can make it tougher for him to know how to play around what Jason is going to do. Now, because of the Tariff Ring, it doesn't make sense to try, I think, and smoke bombs and shoot again. Jason may just decide to go ahead and pass the turn, which he does. Just going to Tariff Ring, not even popped, though.
That's true.
Not even popped. So Glenn feeling safe doesn't feel like he needs to Tariff Ring in this scenario.
Yeah, and we're in a situation where Glenn kind of has he's got the door open once again, right? He can use this turn to level up and advance his game plan. Here we have Merlin level 2. We do know he has a dungeon guide in hand. We mentioned the very sad dungeon guide. Might not be a sad dungeon guide this turn.
Sad
this might
dungeon guide is gone.
Yeah,
it's happy dungeon guide.
Yes,
now.
exactly. Very happy dungeon guide, helping him get to that Merlin level 3, which I think is a something that we might see this turn for sure.
We do see a Resolute Stand in hand, which is in Glenn's position, something that you want to be gripping onto for exactly when you need it. Resolute Stand on the Stalwart Shieldmate may be the reason that Jason decided made the reason Glenn decided not to pop the Tariff Ring, because if you're holding Resolute Stand on your Stalwart Shieldmate, I think you were safe anyway.
Interesting. So do you think it was kind of since the players know each other so well, since they've practiced with these decks so much, that also might be the reason why Jason didn't opt to attack? He's like, okay, he's signaling that he basically has
I have
Resolute.
no doubt. I have no doubt that Glenn, these two have played this match so much that as soon as Glenn says, pass recollection step, I am not popping this Tariff Ring, Jason goes, well, there's no point in me going in now. I will just pass the turn as well. Build up to something. Jason, of course, able to find a Carter. If he can find a Carter, this board is gone, and the attack is free to swing in. The Resolute Stand will still protect one of them, but it will certainly push him ahead a little bit. Double attack into the Dungeon Guide from Glenn, which is going to take that guide off.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep. Making it harder to get through Stalwart Shieldmate.
Yeah, we have a plated bullet coming on down.
Stalwart Shieldmate having 2 health, by the way. Of course, being the advantage there when it takes so much more to get through it than it does a simple Library Witch.
Yeah, I mean, with the Resolute Stand, you need to do, 5 damage?
You need to do the 5 damage, so the plated bullet required. Taser shot doesn't get you there.
Yep, but this will get through, right? And you can see, the players know essentially what the other person has, right?
And this time the Tariff Ring was popped.
Okay, so here we have the Grail activation. Smoke bombs.
There is the smoke bomb.
So smoke bomb coming down. He is targeting the Stalwart Shieldmate, of course. And like Dan said, this is going to make it so that the Shieldmate is unable to block, essentially. And we have the Incendiary Shot being
Incendiary Shot loaded up. Yep. Incendiary Shot does quite a bit more damage than Plated Bullet, with the double on-hit trigger is going to burn for a lot.
Ooh, he loaded twice. So it looks like, he's loading once and then loading it a second time.
I am not entirely sure what Jason is playing at by loading it twice. Without force load, you can't have 2 bullets loaded in. Oh, to get the trigger, the trigger on the trigger on the Shadow's Twin. Yes, that is that is what it is. Thank you. That is yes, the trigger on the Shadow's Twin. Trying to get 2 loads, you're gonna just use up that incendiary bullet and actually shoot with the plated bullet, getting the double load trigger from the Shadow's Twin to deal quite a bit more damage.
Yeah, I had to look up and see if wait, was that once per turn effect?
I had to double check. Yeah. I was not completely confident, because the Diana plays in this game can sometimes get quite nuanced. But that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that's a lot of that's a lot of damage,
Shot
right?
going straight into Merlin
20 damage now marked on Merlin.
with 4 creeping torments. So we're in Bauble of Abundance territory now.
Yeah.
For that kill. Still 20 damage for Glenn to deal to close the game out.
So if you're Glenn here, what are you hoping for? Are you just hoping for your your curse removal? Like you just digging for your curse removal as much as you can?
I'm not sure. I think if you can exercise the curses and if you can spurn the gun, I think you're in a position.
Spurn the gun would work, yes.
Where
assuming, well, Lime actually has kind of shields down, so even if he had the deployed gun shield, he wouldn't be able to play it right now, only with 1 card in hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think exercise curses spurn would be the optimal situation. Now we're sitting on Fireball, Resolute Stand, or no, that is the spurn. I believe that is the spurn.
Spurn in hand?
I believe that's the spurn. There's fire on the card. Sometimes it gets a little tricky to tell.
I don't blame you for mistaking that for Fireball. I mean, very fiery cards. I think you're right, though. It is a spurn.
Yeah.
And he's just immediately jamming that down and getting rid of this Shadow's Twin.
The spurn is going to with that gun, with that bullet loaded in the intent, that means it is actually banished. It's not going to be reserved.
Yeah, so it's just gone forever now.
Yeah, it does not get renewed, unfortunately. Lime goes for the Bauble of Abundance, so that is the thing. Without the exercise, the Bauble is still a lethal play, provided the Resolute isn't played to prevent the draw on the next turn.
That is true, actually. Yeah, that's true. That's pretty sneaky.
Glenn still has an out, but it's a lot of damage to deal. The Carter is going to make this tough.
Yeah, Carter won't get his on-enter effect of getting that additional +2, but it's still like a 2 damage cleave.
It's a 2 damage cleave that importantly heals 2 from Jason, bringing that threshold even farther away from Glenn's reach.
Yeah, being able to kill 2 of those, healing 2, clearing 2. I mean, Carter's just he's just a beast, right?
Yeah, he is. I would say an absolute unit in the most objective sense of the word.
He is an absolute unit. All right, let's see.
The Grand Crusader's Ring, trying to draw cards, going to pop it likely on the opponent's turn, of course, but the Bauble of Abundance is going to make that difficult. When can you actually use Grand Crusader's Ring with the Bauble in play?
He's even like, yep. He's like, I'm going to do it.
I will do it.
What you got? Draw the cards. Triggers on the stack. Cracking.
He's just trying to find an exercise.
Right, yeah, he's trying to dig into it.
But the triggers are already there, so it's not.
There.
Yep, it's not.
Whew. I mean,
the triggers were already there.
You can see the look on the players' faces, right? They knew it was like
this was. They step in, and as soon as Glenn sees the 2 dungeon guides dropping, that's a lot of his hopes have left the building. He's going to need to really draw out to get Lime in that matchup. Very favorable matchup for Lime and a great meta call. Great meta call being 100%. Able to play Diana in this current metagame.
I agree 100%. Diana just has aggression, she has inevitability, and against these decks that, for the most part, are a little bit slower, right? You have your Merlins, you have your Rise, and they're decks that also have inevitability. Very, very scary, but they do take a little bit of time to ramp up, especially if they can't get the dungeon guides,
right?
And get to their level 3. Yeah.
I like to think of it as the Merlin matches having the inevitability where if the game goes late enough, there's no way that these cards are not killing you.
Yeah, for sure.
Diana is a more interactable deck. There's currently no way to deal with level counters, right? So it's like,
that's true, yeah.
But there are ways to deal with curses. So Diana can push a lot faster, get that damage on where it's like very difficult to keep up with, but can also just have its curses cleared, has little Resolute Stand tricks to try and prevent the damage, is dealing pockets of damage that's set up for a late kill, whereas Merlin's just looking to go late, dump the hand on the board, and that's 42 damage, and you're not getting out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn respected the curses when you main deck Expel curses like 2 of.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep. A lot of respect, I'm sure, from both players. Again, playing this matchup probably incessantly. Jason choosing the deck, hoping to go up against Merlin players other than Glenn.
Right, yeah.
Probably every other Merlin player in this tournament today he would rather play than Glenn. Unfortunately, that is how the first round went.
Yeah, then your teammate that you flew, across the continent to.
Yeah.
With, yeah.
Yep. So Jason, moving on with that win. Glenn, of course, this is Swiss today. So if you're just joining us today, we have 7 rounds of Swiss that are happening where these players are getting no breaks in between them. and draws intentional or otherwise would be a double loss
Yeah,
for both players.
Draws are very, very bad. So like it is incentivized to just clear the game. And we saw that with a lot of the deck choices as well, right? Once again, the Merlins, the Rise, these are decks that really won't draw, right? These are decks that are like, I'm going to kill you or you kill me. Either way, the game is going to end, right? And yeah, it's just part of like the consideration that went into like this event, other than like the whole like world's meta too. You know, as a player going into this, you have to be thinking like, okay, what are the other players going to be playing?
Yes.
Which is why the deck choices are so interesting. Which is why Lime playing Diana, the only Diana, is also quite interesting.
I'm looking forward to seeing what our next matches are. So
Me too.
we'll be going on break here, but we will have another round coming to you guys very soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Grand Archive World Championship here in Las Vegas. My name is Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue, and I am joined once again in the booth by Dan. How are you doing, Dan?
What's up, everyone? It is Dan, still from main deck. That hasn't changed in the last 20 minutes since you last saw us, if you've been here. Also, what hasn't changed is that we are, in fact, at the Grand Archive World Championships, 7-round day 1 today. 7 rounds of Swiss.
Yep.
And we just finished watching, Kel, and it just an iconic game, I think, between two of the Creative Shock team members, Lime and Glenny Boy, fighting each other for the chance to potentially progress today. Now, of course, the winner of today, or the winner of that event, that match did not knock the other player out.
Correct.
Do you want to explain today's matches?
Yeah, I think the way it's going to work basically is players want to have their X3 record today, right?
Yes.
The goal is to make day 2 today. I mean, if you go undefeated, that's awesome, right? But the end goal is to make day 2, and we have 3 full days of Grand Archive here at the World Championships. Once again, Dan said this is day 1. We're currently in, we're going to be doing round 2 very, very shortly, right? So we have the upcoming round and then 5 more rounds afterwards. But the end goal, you want to be 4-3. You want to make it into day 2. And day 2 is when the sparks start to fly, because that is when players are allowed to change up their decks. They're allowed to bring in an entirely different deck in going into day 2, which is something that's pretty unique for this tournament, just in general, right?
I think it introduces an interesting layer of strategy. Is now all of the players, so the players today have brought their decks generally that they feel most confident in scoring those 4 wins with, because of course, another rule imposed on the World Championships today is that draws are double losses for these players, whether intentional or otherwise. You will get a double loss if you end up drawing in this. So all these players are really bringing their most damaging, their most effective decks to try and close games out as much as possible. And we certainly saw the sparks fly in the first round with 2 games in a row that I almost couldn't believe, of Limelight drawing a double dungeon guide in his first turn. In the one champion in the game, I think, where you actually want to do that as soon as possible, Diana, double dungeon guide on turn 2, reaching level 3, pulling out the Shadows Twin, and taking aim at Glenny Boy's Fire Merlin.
Double taser shots, kind of a big deal, right? You have that like life pressure, and then you just have like, you can't level up, right? You're just gonna take 8 unpreventable and just die, right? And it just really not only slows down like Merlin's game plan, because Merlin also wants to get to level 3, right? That's how they win. They get to level 3, accrue all this value, and then kill you with a combination of either like fireballs or majestic spirit or what have you. But it like keeps them low, and it also keeps them low life, which is super dangerous, right? Especially when you're getting shot every single turn by a big old like, you know, shadow gun, essentially.
Merlin getting into critical health early on, putting Merlin on the back foot, then having to respond to everything. And of course, it was a Diana game, tons of technical plays happening in there, things like using simple things, I would say, like using Bauble of Abundance to force the Creeping Torment damage through. Not to spoil it, but we might have seen that both rounds. Yes,
right?
yes. To things like the double loading Shadows Twin. Really interacting with the nuanced part of the rules, the ability to load the bullet, put it into an intent when attacking, and then load another bullet into it just to get that +2 damage trigger from Shadows Twin on that current attack, which then ended up causing the bullet to be lost as the gun was spurned to ash the next turn. But the damage was done.
Didn't matter, because Bauble of Abundance was in the back pocket, and it's going to force your opponent to not only draw, but eat just a ton of curse damage.
Yes, so a fascinating game to watch for aspiring Diana players to see the true power of Diana. Diana being, this Lime having the only Diana list in these 16 players. We should mention, Cal, 16 players, of course. Some of the best players in the world coming here today. We have 8 from the North American region, the top 8 of the North American Nationals. We have the top 4 of the Southeast Asian Nationals and the top 4 of the Oceanic Nationals. Yeah,
and of course, Lime being one of the winners from the SEA region.
Lime having traveled to the Southeast Asian region and then taking an invite to the World Championship. They're very well deserved. Made a great meta call that day, and
I think he made a pretty good meta call today as well.
Based on round 1, it does look like Lime has a very strong deck into the current metagame of this the 16 players here, where we have the one Diana list, We have a few other one-ofs, some interesting
Yeah,
matches that
yeah.
we may potentially see soon.
Yeah, there are some pretty interesting ones. Like, so if you watched the NA Nationals, right, you will have seen a lot of Luxem, right? I think that was one of the decks we saw pretty
There were
prevalent.
two Luxem in top 8 of
Yeah.
NA Nationals, and a lot of other Luxem being played that day too.
Yeah, for sure. And here we have, and we mentioned this before, but there's open deck lists here, right? So all of the players know what everyone else is playing. There's a single Luxem deck.
One
Yeah.
Luxem player, one player decided time isn't going to be my issue here. I'm going to make it my opponent's issue.
Yeah.
Luxem having the advantage of if they can take game 1, then the opponent has the full onus on them to, well, I have to win 2 games within whatever
Yep.
time is left here.
Yep.
Because a draw certainly won't suffice for us. Now, if the problem, of course, the risk, if they can win game 2, then these players are risking the draw.
You gotta, you gotta hustle. Like you mentioned earlier, draws are double losses, right?
Yep.
So like they're quite bad.
But Kel, what do you think? You know, from the perspective of all the decks in Grand Archive right now, is there a deck better poised to draw the game out at game 2?
I mean, Luxem's got to be it, right?
That's,
like
it's got to be the one.
It's the deck where like once it gets going, like a lot of the decks we're going to see today, they're decks that really want to get to level 3 and they want to enact their game plan from there. Whether it's Rye doing Rye stuff and just blowing up your opponent, same kind of deal with Merlin. We saw, Diana doing her like pew pew stuff, but like Luxem Xander does that, but he's also just like, I'm going to gain a bunch of life. I'm going to deal you a couple damage here or there. And I'm going to gain a bunch of life and we do a couple damage here or there. And it's just that a lot.
I think for the Luxem player in particular, now we don't know exactly who we're seeing in the next round, but when we do eventually get to that point where we see the Luxem player, if I think very likely a push for that game 1 win through the Lightweaver's Assault is obviously what needs to happen.
Yeah, you want to have like the big burst where you can potentially like double Lightweavers to just do an absurd amount of damage. There is burst potential, right?
Yes, there is.
I don't want to downplay it, like just saying like,
No.
oh, it's just slow chip damage, but that is how it kind of plays out,
But I
chip
will
damage
say,
into the burst.
I will say that when they go to that game 2, there is an interesting play that I think you could take in that Luxem position. If they're up the game on game 1, they can start to use tools like their Luxera's map to not even worry about Lightweaver's Assault unless the board is really threatening, and just find their Luxem sites and just start to recover instead.
Like
Again,
just be unkillable.
time is not my problem anymore. Time is now your problem.
It really depends on the matchup, though, right? Because
It
like
does.
it's really difficult to do that kind of strategy against a deck like Rye, where he can just kill you from full health.
Oh, now do you think there are any Rye players here today, Kel?
There might be a couple Rye players. We haven't seen any yet, but
Not on stream at least, but
There-
yes.
there's more than a few. Let's put it that way.
Open deck lists have shown us that there are some incredible players. Of course, they're all incredible, but there's some incredible players who have picked up Rye specifically for this tournament who are not playing Rye at their qualifying matchups. And in fact, some of these we have not seen them play Rye at any of the major events that they've been to.
At NA Nationals, we had like maybe a couple Ryes. We had less Ryes, I think, at Nationals than we do today.
Yes, we certainly do. Notably, players like Caben Schwartz and Schruber, the True Champion Gaming, sort of the face of it often, has moved to a Rye list today, which find that
it
fascinating.
is a Rye list through and through. In fact, I would call it a serene Rye list.
It
right?
is, in fact, yes, it's serene. So we're moving on. We are going to be seeing Steve from North American Nationals. Let's get his intro on here.
Hi, my name is Steve. Hi, my name is Steve Greger. I'm from Honeybrook, Pennsylvania. I've been playing Grand Archive probably for about a half a year now. My local stores, the Banish Zone. Love those guys. Definitely one of the greatest places that I've been at as far as an LGS goes. Well, what got me into GA was I've played card games basically all my life. I'm currently 28. When I was in high school about a decade ago, I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Life happens, you become an adult, go to college, don't have time for hobbies anymore. So I took a decade-long break, and then I started getting that itch back in July of last year, June or July. So I eventually heard about Grand Archive, I think from an advertisement from a YouTube video, and looked into it right around FTC. The artwork is beyond phenomenal. The gameplay pattern, really fun. I didn't play in the DOA format. I started when FTC came out, but the formats that I've played in, love how the gameplay pattern is. I love the design philosophy of it. it's got a lot of nuance that people don't give it enough credit for. So it was just an itch, had to scratch the itch, and here I am now. I guess winning the first world championship would mean a lot to me, mostly because I started playing back in FTC and I never really had a chance to go to some of the ascents. I mean, Houston had already been, bought out. I didn't get a chance to really play in that event. Auckland, I wasn't crazy like a certain True Champion group was to travel all the way out to New Zealand to play there. And then Ontario, I think I made a blunder of not going. It was definitely a big opportunity that I missed, and I didn't make that mistake when trying to go to Nats. So I always had that feel of, I'm doing really well at locals. I'm doing pretty well in some of the online leagues. I'm winning a lot of, a lot of these, smaller end tournaments. But am I really as good as I think I am? And when I went to Nationals, being my first major event, fun fact, I came down with Erupting and Luxem Xander. I flipped a coin a night before to figure out if I wanted to play Erupting or Luxem, and it landed on Luxem. I had, I think, 10 games of reps on Luxem, and I went to top 8. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm a good player. So now I'm playing against the best of the best. So to me, this would definitely mean that I've reached the peak. Ascent is the name that Weeps has given their tournaments, I imagine mostly for that climb to the top. And I've missed all the ascents to climb to the top. This would be my ascent, especially to climb to the top of 15 other highly skilled players. That would mean the world to me, that I could sit there and say, I am the first world champion. I am a darn good player, and I've always had it in me.
All right, and that was Steve-O Gregor. You know what? Looking at this deck list, I would say he is a man after my own heart here. This is as fire as it gets, right? This is
your
all
favorite.
I love this. This is all aggro, fire Lorraine. We have I see a deck and I see 4 Arthur, I see 4 Crimson Tier, and I'm like, yes, please, sign me up. I'm here. This is a deck that I would very much be very happy and comfortable to play. We see a lot of you're kind of like standard fire stuff here. We have your Blazing Throw for that extra 4 damage. You have your Clumsy Apprentice, your Creative Shock, your Cremation Ritual. But you were telling me specifically some sweet sideboard tech. There's the Viridian Protective Trinket in the sideboard.
So what we saw with the release of ALC is that a move to Fire Xander became very popular. It's sort of the choice Fire aggro deck. This Fire Lorraine that stops at level 2 was sort of a deck from the FTC metagame. But now it's been updated with Crimson Tier. Steve-O bringing it in, I assume relying on that reliability, and especially against allies. One thing Fire Xander can't do is sweep the board. Viridian Protective Trinket comes in, deals with the Song of Frost that stopped that sweep. So this, I assume he's got a little better matchup into an expected water ally metagame with this, as well as just being able to Rending Flames, hone by fire, do a crazy amount of damage, and just pushing this Arthur ally board. Steve-O has one goal here. It's to deal damage to you. That's what he's going to try to do, and every card in the deck serves that purpose. I love
his material deck because he's just got all the baubles, right? He's got the baubles, he's got the Crusader Ring, he's just got the swords that draw you cards. It's just it's very, very I'm going to draw cards, I want to slam dudes, and I want to turn them sideways.
There's exactly one defensive card in his main board material deck, which is Terrafring. Yeah. Everything else is pushing damage, and he'll maybe board a little bit in from the side to get through, but even things like Smoke Bombs are just to get rid of interceptors,
it's an offensive
so he
card.
Can close the game out.
Yeah, he's got Deflecting Edge, really? And
Deflecting Edge usually being there to save your Arthur, right?
Yeah,
It's like an ally in hand that only costs 1 or it's free.
Yeah.
So let's see our next player who's going to be fighting Steve in round 2 of the World Champs.
Hi, I'm Po An from Singapore. I'm 29 this year. I play several card games before this competitively. I played Dragon Ball, I played One Piece, but so far, Grand Archive is my favorite game because I feel the interactions is the best out of all the games I played so far. My friend, my business partner, he's a sort of a weep, so when the Kickstarter came out, he was so into this game, so I just joined him in playing the game. So he collects all the cards, I'm just playing. He plays the games too, but I'm his mercenary, I own none of the cards. I just play it, so whatever I want to make, he'll make for me, I'll just play it. Pohawk is my favorite character in the game. I love Pohawk because he looks just like my friend. I hope there's a level 3 for him, because it'll be more fun. I feel very excited. I mean, I've been to World Championship or previous other card games before, but Grand Archive is a different thing. I feel everything is very well planned, like the hotel stay, the information is very well communicated. Thumbs up to all the organizers. When I play a card game, it's just very simple. It's fun because the deck building aspects of it, the interaction between it, like you have to play around things, you have to do things. I love card games like that. Like other card games just doesn't offer that amount of interaction that Grand Archive provides. It's just fun that you can outplay your opponent, outskill your opponent in a card game. Yeah, there's a lot of potential to grow in this game. Like I feel that the possibilities are unlimited because the advanced elements and the basic elements you can mix together, and as more champions come out, you have more deck building variety in the game. So I feel the potential of it to grow is there. That's why we should play more GA.
All right. It is wonderful to hear from Pro-An Wang, who is our, actually, believe it or not, our Luxem player. Somehow, Cal, somehow we predicted this in the interlude there. But this is, what a cool match, because in particular, not only do we have Pro-An, a well-known member in the community and a very, very powerful player, rocking the one Luxem Xander deck against the one Fire Lorraine deck. For Steve, this is going to be a fascinating matchup because Steve's national qualification was playing Luxem Xander.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Now Pro-An's list is a fairly standard, I would say, Luxem Xander list, making sure to rock the 4 Excalibur to respect any of the potential threats that can arrive on the board that he does need to clear off. Things like Morgan can be pretty frustrating. Not that Steve is caring about anything like that in this particular matchup, but also the 3 Gawain's main. Not something that is always played in the main or even in the side necessarily in Luxem Xander, but a way to deal with the decks that sometimes decks like Erupting or decks like Rai, where you need to try and take them off of a kill card, could be a potential thing that will take Steve off of a kill card by hitting something like a Rending Flames or Honed by Fire to limit his ability to get there. Nullifying Lantern is in the sideboard for Pro-An, a card that might be relied on to try and prevent those Rending Flames. Pro-An just really looking to control the board, control the game until he gets to level 3, heal up. You've played a lot of Luxem, Kel. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of like Water Luxem, but the end game is pretty similar, right? You just want to establish your, your Luxem pattern where you reveal your cards, get your nice effects, gain a bunch of life, do some damage until you get to the point where you can just get him with your Lightweaver's Assault, right? That's going to be your end game goal. You Lightweavers them out. And I think it'll be a really interesting matchup, actually.
Yeah, very fascinating.
It's kind of a slower deck, but a deck that can gain a ton of life, right? If they can get to that point where they're gaining that life, it could be very, very challenging for Steve to like claw back in. So it's going to be a contest of like, speed and aggression versus a deck that really wants to slow things down and really wants to establish this like state where they can become almost unkillable, right?
Yes. So Steve basically looking to clear the game, clear the goalpost before level 3 is hit. You can do it at the turn level 3 is hit as well, but you can't really go much past that because usually at that point the healing and the damage from Lightweaver's Assault reveals starts to become a little too much. So if any deck among all of the 16 today is poised to clear the game before that happens, it certainly could be Steve's, but Luxem is built to try and hold off ally decks with the Vanish from Sight in the main board, and just being able to do things like Fast Cure just to heal and keep up. Resolute Stands to hold the board as well.
It's got some removal, like Thieving Cuts here or there, Juggle Knives. All this stuff is just going to be basically spent to just kind of like maintain board state,
Thieving Cut gained a lot of... I mean, it was already good, but gained a lot of power with the Proxius Vault edition of Xander Deft Executor, who is able to gain a preparation counter and pick up a Thieving Cut that was previously used to be able to use it again, draw another card, keep the board clear. Really just looking to increment that advantage, clear off an ally, draw a card, keep going, build that hand up, get to the point where you get to level 3 and secure the game.
Agreed. I'm a big fan of both Thieving Cut and the end of the new Xander. He's quite strong here.
So we have it looks like a little gentleman.
Yeah, good fist
bump right at the start. And Steve does take the first turn in game 1. I am certain he feels happy about seeing that. Again, well, an interesting thing in the game is going second does allow you to attack first with your allies.
It does, yeah.
But it puts your opponent off a turn on materializing.
Yes.
And in this Luxem matchup, you want very badly to be going first to make sure that you can get that materialized to the Luxem level as soon as possible.
Yeah, possibly more than any other deck, you really want to get to level 3 as soon as possible.
That wouldn't be unreasonable to say. Steve with a Creative Shock right away. It is now he's not Team Creative Shock, so of course he doesn't have the very cool looking Creative Shock, but it is effective nonetheless. Does the exact same thing. Tosses away a Focus Flames because he's not looking to clear very much away here.
Yeah. Once again, we do have open deck lists, so he knows like, hey, I don't need this Focus Flames. It's not going to really be that important in this matchup.
Yep. Puts down a Flame Rune Swordsman. Even having played a lot of these fire decks into Luxem as well, even the lowly Flame Rune Swordsman is a 2-power thing. You can flood the board with these, and they cannot really start to deal with your allies effectively until they're level 3, so any pressure is good pressure in this situation, but Flame Rune Swordsman happens to be one where if it's killed, it can still be a floating memory for Steve, so great start on turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, 2 damage is 2 damage, right? And it's kind of like almost like the perfect little soldier in this circumstance. Like you said, like if it's killed, hey, that's cool. If it stays around, hey, that's also cool.
Yep. And now Pro-An with the Serene Spirit, so the lesser seen FTC spirits that have really picked up a little bit more playability in this newer metagame as people have discovered decks like Luxem Xander and like some of these Fire Ride decks playing this now as well, does only draw you 6 cards instead of 7, but it lets you start by glimpsing at 6 cards.
Yep.
Setting up your hand so that you don't have the cards that you really don't want clunking up your hand at the beginning, or it's less likely for you to have them.
Yeah, I think of it like a soft mulligan kind of, right? You can kind of, make sure you get a hand that's not terrible, especially when you're running so many of the advanced element cards where like it just takes up a big chunk of your deck. You don't want to have a bunch of unplayables in your hand. And then late game, you can also just kind of crack it in for some life, right? And this deck is literally only running 1 fire card. It's just Creative Shock, right? So like cracking that in later doesn't really hamper your deck all that much at all.
That is an interesting change in this deck compared to some other Luxem Xander decks that are still playing things like Explosive, I just totally blanked out. The Explosive card, the fire card that deals damage, prepare it to deal even more damage.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Xander, man.
Yeah. It's like, now I'm
like
mind flooded. It's the 2-drop, does 2 damage, prep 4 damage,
yes,
right?
Yep. That's a common card to see in here because it's able to be picked up by Deft Executor as well. But yeah, Pro-An only playing Creative Shock. Now, a lot of players playing into Luxem Xander for the first time don't necessarily realize that no, it is not a 25 health champion, it's a 31 health champion because of the Recover 6 on the Serene Spirit.
Yep.
So it is a little more. Steve does have to crack through 31 health basically to take this, but he does start off with a second Flame Rune Swordsman.
It could even be more than 31 health with cards like that Fast Cure there coming on in.
Yes.
Gaining a little life. I mean, that's basically what you want to do if you're playing Luxem, right? You just want to slow things down, gain life, just make it generally difficult for your opponent to kill you.
Now, Pro-An did have a dungeon guide in hand, so that is one of the things that in Pro-An's position, he, I think, desperately wants to have a dungeon guide in his hand. So he's going to be protecting that with his life, absolutely never choosing to put that down to material to potentially lose it on a materialize if that's something that is even in the cards, because you're going to need that to get to 3 with enough time to be able to stabilize against the threat of Fire Lorraine.
So Pro-An just coming in. He's just going to juggle some knives here.
Juggling knives, a little damage, draw a card, cycling in, basically just looking to get a little deeper into the deck.
Yeah, and that chip damage isn't completely irrelevant here, right? You still have to kill your opponent at some point, and you need to get them low enough where it's going to be relevant when you actually pop off with your Light Weavers.
Exactly.
And
we saw more Fast Cure in hand as well. I think I saw possibly a second dungeon guide there.
Ooh, second dungeon guide would be great. Definitely we have another Juggle Knives here at the top. Two dungeon guides. We do in fact have 2 dungeon guide. Possibly, I don't know if you would. Kel, do you think you would double dungeon guide with this deck? I mean, Diana would. So
can you go that low though?
It's really risky, right? Like, especially when you're staring down 2 2/2s. Who are just going to be jamming in for 4 plus whatever else. You're looking at Steve's hand. He has, 5 cards in hand plus 3 in memory. He's got influence of 8. That's scary, right?
Yep. Just going for a Serum of Wisdom, a great way just to dig a little deeper. Needs to find Luxem cards because actually his hand has none of them right now, which is honestly ideal. You don't want them right now.
Yeah, you don't want to banish them for your dungeon guides or anything.
But you want them in a little bit.
Yes.
You're gonna need to get. If we get to level 3 with no Luxem cards, that's not good either.
Yeah, then you're basically doing what you're doing now, but with fewer cards.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then you have like a couple 1/3s on the board. We have the actual GCR instead of the GCR at home that the Fire Resonance bubble was.
So Pro-An, allowing the Recollection, did not choose to use a Vanish from Sight, which I believe he actually put down in his memory to play the Serum.
I think so.
So choosing not to vanish, which makes sense. A cool thing about Serum of Wisdom, actually, and just a neat little nuanced interaction in here, is it allows you to put a card onto board, which means that card leaves influence. That card does not, if
True.
you're not down a
True.
card,
Yeah, yeah.
you can pop it later to draw the card back, but it puts Poe down on influence, allowing that fast cure to potentially heal the damage, and we know he's got the fast cure in hand right now. So Poe looking to take the damage from the Flame Rune Swordsman and then heal it back up at end of turn, setting up to level with that floating memory, only potentially losing one of the 2 dungeon guides in hand, and then he can dungeon guide to 3 on the next turn, getting completely set up, other than the fact that there's not a Luxem card in sight.
All right. Speaking of dungeon guide, is Steve considering? I think he might be holding one in hand. Oh no, not a. Oh, Crimson Tier.
Crimson Tier.
My lady.
Your lady has arrived. No dungeon guides in Steve's deck. I had to double check that as well.
Okay,
Steve,
that makes sense.
Yep, Steve not looking to level to 3, just looking to flood the board, put the units in play. And Steve says, okay, you know what? If you aren't going to respect me with the Vanish from Sight, I'm going to do a lot of damage to you right now. Xander going to 1 does make it a human, which means Crimson Tier. Oh, Crimson Tier is a level bonus.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Level bonus.
So these are all just 2 damage across
These are all
the
2
board.
damage attacks.
Yeah, she doesn't get the bonus, but I mean, like, Steve doesn't care. It's 2 damage, right?
2 damage is 2 damage.
Then times 4 is 8 damage, and that's a lot, right? Especially when your opponent's just kind of like trying to, you know, stymie the bleeding as much as possible. Here
There's the fast cure, but
fast
with
cure, as you said.
but with equal influence, missing the opportunity to heal from that. Oh no, did get to heal.
I think he did. Yeah.
Steve has 2 cards in hand. Yep, those 2 cards over there in Steve's hand. Okay. Yep, still under.
Steve's got quite a grip. Yeah.
Steve has a crazy grip right now.
I mean, if you're the aggro player, like that's exactly what you want, right? You want all the aggression on the board and then still have gas in hand.
Yes.
And with his influence and memory, what it is, like, I think Steve is probably feeling pretty good right now.
This is the start Steve wants, other than he's missing his Arthur. The Arthur would be the piece de resistance.
The Arthur would be the coup de grace, as it were. Like,
not the literal coup de grace, of course, but that is a playable card in Poan's deck. But
that's true. Well, we can talk whether it's playable or not. But
okay,
yes,
okay. Playable is a
yeah.
bit of a term to
Right. Yeah.
use
Right.
But it is a card you could put in the deck,
That
not
is
that
true.
you would.
That is true.
So we have a Juggle Knives in the Recollection phase after leveling to Deft Executor. Or are we grabbing a Juggle Knives back? Is that I got too lost in the sauce on coup de grace.
So we have Deft Executor coming into play.
Grabbing the Juggle Knives back. Yes, there is a grab back. Going to draw. There's our first Luxem site. That is a welcome site.
I think he's got a
second.
Lightweavers as well.
Okay, we have a Lightweavers and a Luxem. Yeah, the Luxem site though is a very much a welcome site for Pro-An right now.
Oh, for sure.
He's preparing to level and is going to safely set down not his Luxem cards here.
Yeah, so he needs to do Dungeon Guide,
Dungeon
level
guiding
up, and then he needs a way to put the rest of the cards in his memory so he can reveal them with the Xander's effect.
Happens to be something that Juggle Knives is very good at doing right now.
Yes. So we have a banish of
Oh,
a
but he
Juggle
lost
Knives
the
and
Juggle
a
Knives.
Gawain, I think.
Yep, the Gawain, a bit of a greedy play, honestly, in this matchup.
Not super relevant in this matchup, yeah.
If Fire Lorraine didn't have 8 or 7 cards in hand right now, maybe you could make a justification for it. But Vanish from Sight in hand and 2 Luxem cards. Vanish from Sight needs 3 to play. So Poan passing turn, unable to actually activate these. However, thanks to the Proxia's Vault card, Insignia of the Korhazi,
Yes.
Poan does in fact have a way to put them down at his Recollection phase next turn before the Deft Executor, the Blinding Steel trigger goes off. So all Poan has to do is not lose this turn. Do you think that is an easy or a difficult ask right now, in your opinion?
Well, so the fact that he's level 3 actually, I think, makes it a little bit more difficult, right? He has a little bit higher life. He has taken 6 damage, and he's also, staring down quite an army. We did get a great sword coming on in. It does get that class bonus, so he did give it +1 to, I can't remember what he marked. It was maybe Crimson Tier. But you can be rest assured that we're going to see a lot more allies. And if he drew into an Arthur...
Oh, that's 4 down for
That is
Arthur.
Arthur, yes.
Oh, that's a lot of damage coming in now. He did find the Arthur, in fact.
Arthur jamming in for 2 damage immediately.
Yeah,
And
no immortal on this thing. We don't care about that.
And he's representing at least +3 more additional damage across the board as it stands right now. And then you also have to factor in the +1 from the Greatsword and then the Greatsword itself. This is a lot of damage. So what, like 3, 6, 9, 10, 11? 11 more damage
11
at least?
plus the swing from the Greatsword for 12. For 12 damage. Oh, plus the 1 from the Greatsword as well. 13 damage turn, I believe.
It's a lot. So it looks like Steve is going to opt to at least clear up the board a little bit, make use of that additional point of damage, clear off that dungeon guide. And I think that he's just doing this to make sure that he can't lose anything on like the crackback, or he's going to force Poan to work for it.
I don't know. The killing the dungeon guide so I trust Steve implicitly in his understanding of the
to
threats.
me, when I see that, I think, okay, Steve knows that he can't get the kill this turn.
Sure.
And so his most
can next
optimal
turn.
line is just to like, clean it up a little bit and give him the best chances for the following turn.
So the insignia of the Korhazi is materialized on Proan's turn, allowing him to put his entire hand down into his memory. Now the Blinding Steel trigger goes off, and Poan is going to get the effects of both Lightweavers and Luxman Sight. Lightweaver is dealing 2 damage, taking out the Crimson Tier, and then recovering 3 from the Luxman Sight. Poan is now ready with the Vanish from Sight in hand. He is ready to play the long game. It is time for it to begin. Steve, this is the one thing I was thinking about the Dungeon Guide kill is you need to, potentially push a little more damage, though, because it's going to start to recover that. It is going to come down to if Proan can find more of those Luxem sites, though. It's not like the door is closed on Steve.
Yeah, currently it's like just gaining 3 a turn, which is still kind of annoying, but it's not unassailable at this point. I mean, it could quickly become unassailable, the more sites that are added, but I think Steve definitely still has a window, especially with Arthur on board.
Yes. The damage is pretty intense. Steve has to decide right now, what is Proan going to do? Sort of seeking, yes, there it is, will allow him to still attack in with Lorraine and at least put a little bit of damage on board through a Vanish from Sight. But his other units do not have True Sight and aren't going to get through this. I'm sorry, he knew the Vanish from Sight was in there. It was revealed from Blinding Steel. So he knew it was there and just had to decide whether or not he wanted it out right now, and he certainly does.
Yeah, I mean, Steve also still has a pretty big influence. He's got a lot of gas here, so there's the Vanish from Sight.
Vanish from Sight, stealthing Xander for the turn and put down 3 cards. Certainly the Lightweavers and the Luxem. Did you catch the other draw? I might have seen yellow there. It might have been a 3rd Luxem, which would have been pretty remarkable for Proan.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it is a Lux card. I'm not entirely sure which one it is.
There's the Cremation Ritual.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right?
So Cremation will get him a little bit more floating memory. Getting to Lorraine 2 can potentially push a massive Rending Flames, which is a great way to close the game while Proan hasn't quite gotten the Luxem cards to completely stabilize yet. So potentially Steve trying to line up for that Rending Flames next turn if he can find the right cards, or Fiery Momentum as well.
I mean, just the +2 from the level 2 Lorraine is going to be a big deal here.
Going to start with a Fiery Momentum right now. Push that damage. I'm very used to this line. Just push Fiery Momentums until you win. I'm certainly happy to do that in these Lorraine decks too.
Yep, counting out the number of fire cards
in
the bin.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's going to...
6 or 7. I am bad at counting while I talk.
Either way, pushing the damage count up to 22, which is very, very close to lethal.
It is, remember, it is 31. It is 31 to get lethal here, but it does put him into Chalice of Blood range. That is such a clutch card to have.
Yeah, it is actually.
In your material deck right now. It's going to give Proan a lot more options to deal with. Decides not to put anything else down, found no Luxem cards, and let's see now what we saw here.
We do have
a Gleaming Cut. It is a Gleaming Cut, which will banish off of the reveal to draw 2 more cards in hand.
Juggle Knives and
another Luxem. I think that was a Sight.
I think it was a Luxem Sight as well.
I think it was a Sight.
But do you think it's a little too late here, being at 19 health, staring down an Arthur board?
Proan still has a draw for turn, and
That's true. He does.
Proan finding Resolute Stand or Vanish from Sight will keep him alive.
Yeah, looking at his hand, he's got what is that? A Gawain, a Dungeon Guide. I think he might consider juggling some knives here to draw another card.
Yep, certainly. I mean, that's what you want to do. All you need to do right now, in Recollection, juggle knives. Let's see, we found Thieving Cut.
I mean, Thieving Cut draws you a card as well.
Thieving Cut can take out Arthur.
Yep, take out Arthur, draw a card, because you have more than enough prep counters. All right,
So-
let's see what he draws off the top.
Luxem's ability to clear the board over a couple of turns can't be understated as well. With lots of cards in hand, Pro-Am does have the ability to play multiple things here and try and cling on to the game. And with that 31 health, again, keeping in mind Serene Spirit's gain 6, it will take, even if Pro-Am can find the Vanish from sight, Fiery Momentum won't necessarily quite get there
That's
either.
a good point. You can't discount the Serene Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy to forget, but that's still hiding under there and represents another 6 life.
We have a Gawain in play too. The Gawain is actually I think a thing you can think about at this stage, because hitting Steve's
Right.
attacks can also it can serve just as well as having the Vanish in this case.
Getting rid of some of the big heavy hitting cards like the Fire Momentum.
Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense.
Oh, it would be really cool to see the Gawain. Yeah, here it
Here
is,
we
the
go,
Gawain tech. I
Gawain.
love it. I love it.
This is a card that we actually talked about, like when we were all the casters were discussing
Yeah,
the decks, and I even pointed it out. I'm like, the Gawain's kind of an interesting choice here. I wonder if it'll see play, and we do
There's
see a good hit, multiple good hits. There's a Rending Flames.
Well, that's not what you want to see right now though. There's Rending and Fire Momentum.
Yeah, you don't
and
want two.
Pro-Am needs to get both of them.
Yeah, you don't want both of them.
It
yeah.
only has, I believe, the one Gawain.
I think so.
But the Blazing Bowmen are certainly a lot of pressure too. This is the thing about Steve's Fire Lorraine. It is just gas all the way
Yeah,
down.
With a lot of damage. So what do you choose? I mean, okay, Dan, what do you if you're Poen in this situation? Which one do you choose? Do you choose the Rending Flames or do you choose the Momentum?
So I see no Hones, and that means I'm thinking that the Fire Momentum is the consistent big damage. Poe doing the math right now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Poe doing the math. The Fire Momentum likely looking at around 10 damage. I think I haven't done the exact math. Poe has, which is good, but around 10 damage, whereas the Rending Flames off of a Lorraine level 2 is 10 damage there, but it does require you to do the level up, and it also is a little weaker to Resolute Stand, where the Momentum can hit more through a Resolute Stand. Resolute Stand, of course, you get to stack the damage prevention before the damage doubling, so a -3 on the damage from Resolute Stand is actually a -6 on a Rending Flames.
Yes.
It's only 3 on Fiery, so... hits the Fiery Momentum as it's just the more consistent, stronger card right now. Rending Flames also will reduce the potency of future Fiery Momentums. So I think there's a lot of
That's
reasons
true,
to pick Momentum here. Steve going for the Drawn Blade. Just looking to find as much gas as possible. Use that Floating Memory up. Doesn't see 2 as a needed option right now. More cards means more damage.
Yep. And still, like, once again, we can't discount Arthur on board. Like, he's going to, push a lot of damage. Especially with those Blazing Bowmen that we saw.
Yes. Oh, there's a lot of damage that can be pushed from Blazing Bowmen right now.
I do believe he's only running 2 in his deck as well, so those are the 2
There's the Vanish.
Blazing Bowmen.
Poe did, in fact, find the Vanish, which made that Momentum hit actually extremely crucial. And Steve did not know that the Vanish was there. Otherwise, he might have actually thought, I think, about going to Lorraine 2. You have to take a little gamble to do that. But
Yeah.
the Lorraine 2, with the +2 damage, plus the 1 from the sword, and then the 3 from Rending Flames doubles to 12, which is exactly enough to take Xander out right now. But that Vanish is going to completely stymie that turn without the fighting.
You hate to see it when you have to cremate your Arthur.
Cremating Arthur, because if he sees a Hone by Fire, I think he can get there.
So he's just kind of like digging for his finishing. Let's see. There's a Crimson Tear, another Cremation Ritual in hand. Do you think he just jams an ally and yeets it into the fire again?
He might have to. He still has to close the game before Poen can recover. And the problem is putting allies down right now is very risky because there's a Lightweaver's Assault sitting there. Most of Steve's allies
Easy
only
pickings.
have 1 or 2 health. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where Poen wants to be, right? He doesn't really care about killing the opponent right now. He's gaining life. He can accrue his advantage, and if he could just keep killing Steve's board, he's very, very happy.
I can't stress how critical finding that Vanish from sight was for Poen, which is exactly why that deck plays as many card draw cards as it does.
Right, yeah. Very, very nice card coming out of ALC there.
So Steve is really in the tank right now, really debating where to go with this because putting Blazing Bowmans down doesn't do anything with the stealth in play. Decides to just
he's going for it.
Pushes damage. I mean, it makes sense. Again, Poe can only heal so much per turn. It depends on how many Luxem sites he has, and that's it. So uses his sort of seeking to Rending Flames in for a total of 8 damage, forcing the pop of the Serene Spirit to heal 6, then take the 8. And now, at this stage, Xander has locked off the creative shocks. So
yep, it's just the creative shock. So he doesn't have to worry all that much. He's not really cutting off a ton of his deck.
It is a card draw card though, and
It's
again,
true.
Steve is aware. Remember, Steve has played this Luxem matchup an absolutely obscene amount, and understands at this stage in the game, Poe is drawing for survival.
Yes.
Turning anything off that can prevent him from drawing more cards is actually a potentially advantageous position. Now, we have
multiple Lightweaver triggers.
multiple Lightweavers, but only one Luxem site.
Yep. It's only one site.
Poe not having enough cards. You need to hit 10 cards to be able to double Lightweavers for the kill. But Lorraine does only have 19 health, so Poe only needs to get there. Gets a card from Fire Resonance Bauble this turn as well.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
Resolute
true.
Stand. Oh, that Resolute Stand would have been pretty good against that Rending Flames. Another reason.
Yes, it would have. Yeah.
Actually, another reason Steve's very smart. He pushes the Rending Flames through the Vanish from site because he knows that he doesn't have Resolute Stand up this turn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It gets the max value from Rending Flames.
All
Healed
right.
to 18, and we are putting 2 down for the
Thieving Cut.
Thieving Cut. Poe has to close the game
Yep. So Thieving Cut going to do 3 damage and draw a card.
and draw a card. Finding.
Did he just draw that into his memory?
Into memory. I'm trying to figure out why that card got drawn into memory. What did we miss here, Cal? I don't know what drew into memory there.
I'm not entirely sure. But hey, we have a Fire Resonance Bubble drawing another card
Yep,
as well.
we are drawing still. We saw another Lightweaver's Assault. Plenty of Lightweaver's Assault. Oh, the Korhazi Insignia trigger. Insignia the Korhazi
So he
trigger.
did the trigger from the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I forget that has another effect that isn't just putting everything
So,
into your
For those
memory.
watching, he drew the memory from the Korhazi Insignia trigger.
Yes.
For some reason, we thought it was like directly from the Thieving
Yeah,
Cut.
it happened.
Yeah.
With the Thieving Cut was.
He
nothing
like
but that,
motioned
yes.
to it, did the Thieving Cut.
Yep.
Yes.
So we have 2 Lightweaver's Assault. He's revealing now from an Uncover the Plot, getting more healing, getting to draw more cards off of the Gleaming Cut. 2 Lightweaver's Assault and or 2 sites and a Lightweaver's Assault now.
Yeah. This is
2 sites now. Yeah, this is a lot of healing happening. Down to 12. Steve is probably starting to feel in a pretty rough position at this point.
I've been there before. This is getting pretty scary, right? This is.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call it. I'm not gonna say it's unkillable now, but it's starting to get to that point where you get to the range where it's just like they're gaining so much life, they're doing so much damage.
Goes for the kill shot with the Lightweavers. He knows
Yep.
it's over.
So I'll take it back.
that's
I
it.
will call it there.
Let's call it. Let's call
Yep.
it. A victory for Luxem, actually able to take over the game.
Yeah. And like you mentioned before, like Luxem being up on the first game is actually really, really relevant, right?
Yes.
It puts a lot of pressure on the opponent to clear out the rounds, because like these are timed rounds, right? These are, they have a time limit, and you're playing against a deck that really wants to go as long as possible. If you're the deck that is the aggressor, you have even more pressure to just kind of like get through it, because now you have 2 games you have to get through.
Absolutely. Now, if any deck among these 16 can push those 2 games through, I do think it is Steve's deck.
Oh, for sure.
This is the deck that is, again, it's the most pedal onto the gas, do as much damage as possible. Now, as
Yeah.
these players are sideboarding, what are we expecting? Obviously not a Viridian Protective Trinket
No.
coming
Yeah,
in for
no,
Steve.
no protective trinkets, no deflecting edges, probably.
Steve I would say likely pulling out the Spurn to Ash, potentially just to push Blazing Throw, Flame Rune Swordsman in just to deal
Yep.
more damage. Needs to just consistently, basically Steve cannot afford to see clunky cards in his hand against this matchup. And we like to say about Luxem, it capitalizes on the opponent's stumbling. If you cannot push damage at the maximum possible pressure, then the Luxem player gets a free turn, and then it gets locked down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Focus Flames just came out.
Focus Flames could be too. The Spurn Dash could be kept in because Pro-An potentially looking at putting Nullifying Quicksilver in.
Yeah.
Quicksilver can come out whether or not, that's the thing about Quicksilver. Again, I'm going to gush about it again, but whether or not that Nullifying Lantern is under the Quicksilver Grail, Steve will not be able to play a Rending Flames
Right.
into it.
Schrodinger's Grail, right?
Yeah, exactly. It will be Schrodinger's Grail completely, and it will be a next level play to see a player like Pro-An, a skilled player, reveal something like a Grand Crusader's Ring, or
Right,
sorry, it
yeah,
won't
yeah.
be Grand Crusader's Ring, that's but a bauble or something off
Yep.
of the off of the Quicksilver
It's where the
Grail.
mind games of the Grail come into play, right?
You never know. You never quite know with these players whether or not they're going to try and go for that next level mind game play, or whether they are going to respect the opponent and go, you know, I don't know, I do have to have it here.
Yep, and looking at Poan's sideboard, we see another Vanish from sight. You got to know that's going to be coming on.
The Vanish is coming in for sure. I do see, you know, I wonder about the Gawains here. Like, there's a potential of putting it in if he felt like that was effective enough.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But
like,
I'm not totally sure. Blanche also can prevent the blazing throws, but otherwise gets attacked very easily. So there's a number of cards in here that like they have upside but downside too. And Poan's just going to have to, I think, make a call as to what will end up happening in this matchup. And the difficulty with Steve's deck is because it's so focused on damage, it does damage both on the attacks on board,
right,
but with cards from hand too.
All right, so it's all on Steve here to push the aggression to get through Poan's unassailable light, you know, blinding light.
Yes, Steve takes the play with a hasty messenger pass, setting up to start dealing some damage and filtering in some cards. Hasty messenger, of course, being very effective here. The on-attack discard and draw, allowing him not only to get floating memory in there to save cards as he levels so he can push more attacks, not only filling his graveyard with fire so that he can get his Rending Flames and his fire momentum's turned on, but also just churning through his deck to get rid of the cards that don't do anything and find the cards that have damage numbers on them.
Yeah, and I would like to note for those out there who haven't a lot of experience playing against Serene Spirits, what Poan was doing was resolving his Serene Spirit enter effect. Right?
Oh, he wasn't just like deciding for fun what kind of
It's
cards
kinda
he
like
wants to have.
I want these cards.
Yeah, well, he was in fact by game rules deciding which cards he wants to have, and has now set up a card. One thing about Serene Spirit too, the amazing consistency of finding cards like Dungeon Guide is remarkable from having Serene Spirit in there too. So we do see, in fact, a Dungeon Guide in Poe's hand as well as a Resolute stand.
Yep.
Poe probably feeling pretty okay about this hand, but then ultimately just passing turn, doesn't need to do anything right now. Will allow Steve to go ahead and Creative Shock end of turn, sets up his Bobble, and will be ready to start attacking and drawing cards. Lorraine not needing to get a class bonus, so not having any pressure to go up to level 1 for a little while here.
Yep, just crack your GCR at home and jam it on, and let's see what he drops here. Is it Clumsy Apprentice? All right.
Starts with a Clumsy Apprentice, taking 2 damage. That damage shouldn't matter for Steve. Either he loses or he wins the game.
Yep, and Clumsy is just a nice little 1/1 that draws you a card, basically.
Yep.
Perfect for this kind of deck. You don't really care what your life total is as long as your opponent is dead.
A great interaction with a 4-cost card called Arthur coming down there as well.
Very nice.
Clumsy letting you get the ally on board to get the Arthur pump now.
Looking at the health totals, it looks like Arthur was he used his on-enter effect to become immortal.
It does seem that way as well.
And so, yeah, Arthur is now immortal, so that kind of just guarantees another turn of Arthur just being around and, you know, increasing the damage of all the other allies there.
Now, Hasty Messenger pitching Creative Shock. That is, Kel, that's something that is maybe even sort of a heathenous play for some players here. How do you feel about pitching Creative Shock to Hasty here?
I mean, if I'm Poan, I'm thinking like, okay, if he's pitching the Creative Shock, he must have gas in his hand. Like his hand must be like pretty spicy there to get rid of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that makes sense. I think at this stage of the game, the Creative Shock is representing not attacking that turn with something, not dealing damage or something. Steve played his Creative Shock the turn when he couldn't attack anyway. That is when you want it.
Yep, perfect.
Then we move on. We're done. We're done with Creative Shock now. Don't need it anymore. Let's attack.
I just want to jam dudes and turn them sideways, right?
Now, I want to remark on one of the most important aspects of this game right now. How do you feel about the way that Steve has rested his units on board?
I'll tell you what, not a fan.
I'm not sure I'm digging Steve's chaotic resting strategy here, but maybe he's doing it to throw Poan off a little bit. It certainly would throw me off.
Not only are they facing different directions, but they are inconsistent with the sides as well. So.
It's a remarkable strategy. I think a true next level pro strategy to rest your units that way.
Tilt your opponent out.
Yep.
Well, we have, this is actually also interesting. So we have a Creative Shock, discarding a Vanish from Sight.
What do you think? What do you think from Steve's position watching a Vanish from Sight being pitched on Creative Shock?
he's like, okay, he's not scared. Like, you got to assume like he's got other interaction, right?
Yeah,
maybe Resolute, maybe more of the Vanishes.
Steve, again, Steve has played this deck a lot, so I'm sure he's got a better idea than me, but there's the Resolute, and we have a lot of Luxem in hand. Poe looking to protect his Luxem cards, because if he gets there, he'll have the game secured faster than before. The key is just getting there. So
Yep.
has to be lots more interaction sitting in Poe's hand for sure.
He's a little bit of ways though. He's just a spirit right now, so he's got to get up to level 3. We do know that he has dungeon guide, right?
Yes.
So he's got a little bit of ways to turbo it out, but for Steve at least, he's still got to get there.
We have a Thieving Cut in there too. As soon as he levels, gets the preparation counter from Xander's level 1, that Thieving Cut can drop and take care of the Arthur.
So looking at Steve's hand, he's got a couple of momentums, I think. I think I might have seen a...
That is so many
Rending
cards.
Flames?
That is so many cards.
That is a lot of cards. Yeah. All right, so we have a Xander level 1 leveling up.
It is time, in fact, to level. We're losing Gawain. Poe absolutely okay
probably
with
not.
that.
Yeah, probably not too sad about that.
No, we're fine. We're good. We see a Resolute Stand on the glimpse.
All right, so he's gonna.
More action coming.
Yeah, if you're Poe, this is kind of where you want to be, right? You have all of this, basically like fog or stall type cards,
Yep.
and you already have a good Luxem Suite in your hand. You just kind of need to go through the motions, prevent their damage on their turn, and just get there.
Poe keeps both on top. We did see Nullifying Lantern in his material deck, so he does have that Nullifying. When he finds a turn, it'll likely be... He's likely still going to prioritize going to 3, knowing that, unlike Erupting, Rending is not immediately lethal here until maybe Steve starts to posture a little bit more by going to Lorraine 1, getting ready for a potential Rending by going to Lorraine 2. So Poe likely looking only to drop that Nullifying Lantern, potentially under a Quicksilver if he sees Steve push to level 1 and starts to threaten with a damaging Rending Flames.
I think so. I think, yeah. If you're Steve here in this position, you have a lot of cards, right? You have a big grip.
A lot of cards.
How do you feel? You have Arthur on board. You have a lot of cards. You have your hasty, but Poe's done a pretty good job of stemming the onslaught, being only at 4 damage, and being pretty comfortable enough to discard a
Vanish
from sight. Like,
now Poe did draw another Resolute Stand that turn. He kept it on top with the Glimpse. Steve, interestingly, didn't drop additional allies last turn, but if you look at his hand, we see Honed by Fire. We see him pushing in. This is it. This is the Rending Flames push. He's going to say, okay, I'm going to make you have the second Resolute Stand. You've pitched a Vanish, and you used a Resolute Stand. Unless he's just pushing a small damage attack here, I imagine the Rending Flames is coming through to try and just take the game, but...
he's got
to...
Do you think he's gonna debate, like try to force something out first?
There's the Resolute Stand.
Yeah, here's the Resolute. Paying brass tacks for it. Yeah, I mean, like, this is a really crucial turn, right? Like, Poe is in a very, very precarious situation, but he does have the answers, right? We do see the Resolute coming on in. We have the attack just for the trigger.
Yep, he pitched a Fire Momentum. By the way, that Home by Fire was done during Recollection Phase, if anyone missed that. It is a fast speed spell. You're able to use that during Recollection Phase, which is the advantage of Steve keeping those cards up last turn instead of using it to play more allies to the board. So he's able to hone and then go into this turn still with the full grip. The Resolute Stand did happen, so now Steve is thinking, well, okay, that hone might have been lost here. Am I going to push? He's still going to push, I think. No, that's a Cremation Ritual on the Hasty Messenger. Let's see what else we can find.
Yeah, dig in a little bit. All right, so he draws into another Cremation Ritual.
There are multiple Rending Flames here. There's a triple Rending Flames hand, it looks like.
Yeah,
Putting
I mean,
2 Rending Flames down.
Is he just going to...
He's going to Cremation Arthur.
All right.
Steve really valuing the cards in hand right now.
Yeah. So Arthur going into the bin too.
But the big thing is pushing the Fiery Momentum damage. So cremationing all his allies to get the massive Fiery Momentum. Because, again, Rending Flames is disproportionately affected by the Resolute Stand. Whereas against Fiery Momentum, it's only preventing 3. So that Fiery Momentum, massive hit using the Honed Sword of Seeking.
Yeah, I really like that play. You know what? Like you mentioned, just basically putting his board into the bin to pump up this Fire Momentum for a massive, massive attack.
Pushes him to 7, but only 2 cards left in grip, unable to quite finish it. This would have been the perfect opportunity to Blazing Throw, but unfortunately Steve missing that. But now Poe is getting against the ropes here. That the number of fire cards in the graveyard has only grown.
Yep.
And Poe is going to need to get through the next turn. Again, 31. 31's the magic number for Steve.
So this materialization is going to be really, really important. Where do you think he goes from here? Because like I think he only has one dungeon guide in hand, right? I don't think you can level. Yeah. So this is what I was getting
It's
at.
the respect.
I was like, you either go for lantern, or you try to risk it with a the double level up, but you can't do both.
Yep.
And I think the lantern is the like, hey, I need to make sure I don't die to all of your fire shenanigans.
I think this is not even just not just a lantern, but an informed lantern. Because if you look at the last turn, Steve went for the Hone by Fire, of course, during the Recollection step. When you do that during Recollection step, you're really posturing Rending Flames at that point. Poe happened to have the Resolute stand. Steve chooses not to play a Rending Flames, not because he doesn't have it, and Poe knows that. Poe knows he must not have he must have Rending Flames
Yeah,
right
he
now.
still has it in hand.
Chooses not to use it. I have to Nullifying Lantern right now, or I am not going to get through. Now, so the question is, did Steve board out the Spurn to Ash?
Right.
A Quicksilver Lantern would have been safer, but Poe might not be expecting the Spurn to Ash here. Might have thought he might have sorted it, sided
is
it
this
up.
is
There's
that
the
bulwark?
Bulwark Sword from the side.
Yeah.
Bulwark Sword, another way to push damage with Rending Flames.
It's just a big sword.
Yep.
Yeah. Rending Flames in hand, you know, at this point in time without Spurn, it's just going to be like a raw damage
But Steve
card.
only needs to deal 2 damage. Steve only needs to deal 2 through whatever interaction Poe is holding. Can he get there?
I mean, he's got quite the grip here. We know he has Rending. I think I see a Crimson Tear.
There is a Crimson Tear. Yeah, I mean, there's allies. Steve knows Poe's not just putting Nullifying Lantern out passing for no reason. So-
Exactly. Yeah. I think we're coming down to some very crucial turns. So this is the Crimson Tier that we mentioned. It's going to be coming in. We have the,
Pop the Serene.
release to
They're
gain
releasing
6.
the Serene, yep. Okay. Releasing the Serene this early, pretty dicey. Only 8 damage now to deal to close it. Then there's the 3. So
Yep, 3 Crimson Tier gets that +1
5
from the level
damage.
bonus. All right, 14. It's still pretty precarious for Poe, right? All right, so we have a Lorraine to attack. This is that Bulwark Sword.
attacking with the Bulwark.
All right,
2 more damage.
waiting for a response to see if he's just going to take the damage or if he's got more interaction. Looks like he just takes it. Ooh.
And there's the Blazing Throw.
Blazing
The
Throw.
Blazing Throw for game, of course. Yeah, Blazing Throw last turn with the Serene Spirit, not going to get there, obviously. So it makes sense to leave
Yeah.
your sword up at that stage. Though he did just end up using the Bulwark Sword instead.
Yeah, just a little bit more damage. A little bit more damage. All right, so now we have 1-1, Steve and Poan, and you know this is for all the marbles. This is, as we mentioned before, just in case that you're coming in the stream a little bit later. Draws, ties are very bad, right? Double loss. So both players are heavily incentivized to finish this game out. Neither of them wants to draw.
Yes, this is Luxem's least favorite position to be in now, is being 1-1 going into the game, especially with the double loss in play. So fortunately against Lorraine has very little defense. So if Poan can hold him off, that finishes within reach within a reasonable amount of time still for Poan.
Yep, agreed. I mean, Steve's looking to do basically what he did last game. Just try to put as much pressure as he possibly can and to close out before Xander can get to level 3. And that's exactly what he did that game, right?
Yep.
Xander wasn't able to get to level 3 and got killed on the back of a nice little bursty turn.
Yep.
Blazing Throw is it's a pretty good amount of damage.
Putting the pressure onto Poan, forcing him to pop the Serene Spirit too, even if Poan is sandbagging some sort of Resolute stand or something at that stage.
Yeah.
That does cut him off of creative shocks, where again you get to that late stage, that mid to late stage in the game when you haven't quite gotten to level 3 yet. Those are still key cards for building up the cards. So really, Steve looking to put that pressure on right away, pop the Spirit as early as possible, so that he can keep Poan a little unbalanced and close the game before the deck stabilizes.
Looking at Poan's opening hand, he shipped back quite a lot of cards.
Quite a lot of cards.
One of which is a Resolute. So there is a Resolute now on the bottom. So that's something to keep note for the rest, right?
Poan held on to a Creative Shock and a
Is that a Juggle?
Juggle?
Juggle Knives? I think it is a Creative Shock and a Juggle Knives. If the tiny sliver of art gave me any indication.
I would trust Poan more than myself at judging that.
I mean, he did draw into a dungeon guide, so
On the dungeon
that is of note,
Yep.
right? Immediately pass the turn. Steve now has the opportunity to be the aggressor, right? Poan has his spirit out, so he can just kind of like do his thing, slam some dudes down, turn them sideways.
Poan going into game 3 on the play, of course, is the better position to be in, as we've mentioned each time.
Yes, you want that extra materialization step for sure.
But Steve can now immediately play Clumsy and get attacks in. Does he have the Arthur to follow up? The Arthur Clumsy being an excellent use of his cards in hand here.
Looks like he's gonna jam down a Creative Shock.
Let's
just
find what else we have.
drawing into Crimson Tier and a Conscript. Looks like he's gonna discard the Conscript here.
Conscript, not quite as effective as the other allies until you get to level 2.
Yep. Just a kind of a 2-1 until then. Really debating whether or not that's what he wants to discard here.
It does only cost 2, so
'Cause
there's
you
a
could play
debate
it,
there.
yeah.
There's a debate there. Goes for it, swinging with Clumsy, and then holding on to a Hone, a Crimson Tier,
And a Messenger?
and a
maybe?
Messenger.
I think so.
So that's an interesting choice. The Messenger for no value.
I think that's what he's gonna do.
Yep,
Yeah.
Messenger for no value, just attacking. Just the value is the damage.
Yeah. So he's basically considering, hey, do I want to put the Conscript in to do one more point of damage here, or do I just want to, discard it, have better cards for later, and still do at least 1 point of damage for the turn?
Another potential line there too is to keep the 3 cards in hand, level to 1 next turn, and then Recollection phase, use the Hone by Fire to try and dunk a lot of damage onto Poan. It won't be enough though, because there is no way Poan is not going to level 1 this
Yes.
turn.
Yep.
Not gonna not happen.
Yep. So we have
Glimpse to
the
Vanish and Creative Shock. Wow, nice cards to see right now.
yeah. I mean, especially that Vanish, right? He has Dungeon Guide in the memory.
Vanish, I think the reason the Vanish was tossed last game is because the board was not as wide. Vanish great against the wide board Lorraine, but against the attack with the True Sight,
Yeah.
not quite as
Yeah.
effective.
The True Sight momentum, not great.
So right now, Poe has to try and decide what he's putting Steve on. A card going on the bottom.
All right. So one top, one bottom.
Was it the Creative Shock or the Vanish?
It's an interesting call here. Oh, both on bottom.
Both on bottom.
All right,
Actually,
yeah.
let's swap that up. They're both going on the bottom. Neither are what Poe is looking for. He's actually looking for. I'm not sure what that was. It a Gawain or a Juggle Knives? Or sorry, not a or a Thieving Cut.
He drew into a Thieving Cut
Yep,
off the
Gawain or
Juggle
Thieving
Knives.
Cut.
Yep. So let's see.
Thieving Cut. It is.
And are we gonna see?
We're just going to go right
Thieving
for
Cut.
that Thieving Cut. Yep.
Okay.
Take an ally out, draw a card, get a little deeper, find more of our action.
Yeah, and I mean this is what you want to do, right? You know.
Finding it was a card that was yellow with Xander on it. It was either
Right.
Lightweavers or Sight. And we still have a Gleaming Cut in hand, which is good. Good to see.
Easy Fire Resonance Bubble on this turn.
Materializes the Fire Resonance. Ready to draw some more cards. Steve going for his classic 10-card hand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Dropping allies on board.
It feels like his hand is always like 7 or more cards.
I'm not quite sure how he does it, but he sure does.
Yeah. I mean, like Creative Shock, drawing cards.
it just-
drawing cards is pretty
Deck
good.
just draws lots of cards. He's happy to Cremation Ritual his things after they've done damage to find his end game combos.
Yeah. Drew into some stuff that you don't particularly want to see in this matchup, like that a Deflecting Edge, but.
Deflecting Edge does deny Thieving Cut's card
That's
draw.
true. That is true.
So it's not the worst thing in the world
It
to
does
see,
have a little bit of corner case, yeah.
but you want to have allies in play that need to be killed by Thieving Cut right away.
All right, so he's got, well, taking it back a little bit.
He's just putting cards down for fun. Just kind of wants to look at the card back. He does have beautiful world sleeves to
That's
look
true.
at.
That is true. I mean,
So-
like, you do have to kind of math it out, right? It can be a little tricky if you haven't played a lot of Grand Archive, like doing the math. Obviously,
Even if you have played a lot of Grand Archive, I'll
Yeah.
say that doing the math can be the most complicated part of the game.
I think so. Yes, because you always have to account for the card that you're playing in doing the math for the rest of the turn, right? So it looks like he's
4
going
cards down for the Arthur.
Arthur. Yep,
4 cards down can only be one thing.
my boy coming in.
Arthur, not immortal. We're going for the attack, I believe.
Yep. So this is representing what 4 points of damage coming in across the 2 bodies.
Steve holding up Deflecting Edge, I think, in there.
Yeah, he does. I mean, maybe he just wants it to save his Arthur, right? Like you
Exactly.
mentioned.
You can play Arthur, hold up the Deflecting Edge, and when that Thieving Cut does come in, Deft Executor, of course, able to grab the Thieving Cut again. So it seems like a likely play for Pro-Am to go for, because taking care of that Arthur can really hold off a lot of damage. And Steve will be ready for it. It would be really cool to see that Deflecting Edge do a lot of work in this matchup.
Yeah,
There it is.
I think so too. So we do have. Is he? Yeah. So he buys back the Thieving Cut.
Finds a Scry the Skies on top.
Yeah, I think it is a kind of interesting thing because like if you're Poan, you probably aren't expecting the deflecting edge, right?
Is he though?
He's going 3 down.
3 cards down. I don't know if thieving. I think he might have even put.
Is he
Thieving
just
Cut down
gonna
there.
guide here? I think he's just gonna guide
He's
here,
just guiding. Yeah, you
to
guide
push
to
to
3.
Lux.
Yep, guide to 3.
Yeah, I mean, like this seems like a play that helps further his end game, enables his Lux cards, and we already saw that he's got a lot of Lux gas in his hand, and I'm gonna call it that. I'm calling it Lux
Lux
gas. He's got the Lux gas.
It looks to me like he lost to Scry the Skies and Uncover the Plot, not being quite as important as keeping the other Luxem cards in hand.
Dungeon Guide being able to pick off the Clumsy is actually also like pretty relevant.
Yeah, that's more damage prevention. That's preventing 2 damage from the Arthur, which Poan opted not to take care of the Arthur just specifically to get to level 3, which I do think that's the right call. The nice thing about Deft Executor is not only are you getting back a card that you might want to play, you're just getting an additional card in hand, which slightly extends what you're able to do on your turn as well, or gives you options in this deck where you don't have to banish your Luxem cards off of that Dungeon Guide to level. Steve goes for the GCR and the Materialize.
I mean, honestly, we're talking about how he has so many cards in hand, but I think it's because his entire material deck is just like bobble type cards.
He draws 2 cards a turn, and a bunch of the allies he plays draw cards too.
Yep. I mean, hey, if you're going aggro, it's great to just not gas out.
Yep.
And Steve's deck is very, very good at that.
Arthur coming in for that 2 right away.
Yeah, and Poe, he's still at a pretty healthy total, especially being level 3. 8 points of damage is not nothing, but it's also not super threatening.
The Serene Spirit unused as well.
That's true.
I mean,
Yep.
I think Poe's feeling very safe this turn.
Yeah, Poe's at a virtual 2 health here. If you're calculating in the Serene Spirit, there's a lot of pressure on Steve to just kind of apply more pressure, apply more damage. Poe has been able to kind of do what he wants to do, and he's done a great job at it. And now that he's level 3, I can assume that we see something like we saw in the first game, where we're going to see that insignia come down and start getting value out of that.
Well, Rending Flames can do a remarkable amount of damage. It is not going to deal 21, 22, 23 damage.
Yeah.
I'm good at math. 23 damage this turn. So yeah, Poe very, very healthy, very safe right now. Steve will just push ally aggro, kind of force Poe to have the Lightweavers to clear the board and soften him up so that eventually that some sort of Rending Flames turn can go in. And he does still keep 2 cards up. Note that Steve is still at Spirit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Rending Flames is class bonus.
Yes.
So
Steve has to level to get there, but
yeah,
being at Spirit, Kel,
it's pretty low, right? So Spirit
it's not a lot.
has base health 15, so he has a virtual 12. And if you're going to be doing a lot of Lightweaver stuff, Lightweavers can actually do quite a bit of damage.
It can, but Poe is going to respect the board. Lightweavers and Luxem Sight and the Gleaming Cut revealed deals 2 damage to take out the Crimson Tear, heals 3, and then draws 2 cards.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Poe here, you're not in any rush, right? You're establishing your end game. You want to make yourself virtually unkillable, and he's well on his way to do so.
Here it comes. 2 down. Oh, no, 1 down. Okay. It looked right away. It looked right away like we were going for the Gleaming Cut. I was so excited because Steve does still have 2 cards in hand, including the Deflecting Edge.
He's just waiting on the Gleaming Cut, right? He's like, come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
But more importantly is Scrying the Skies to get rid of anything that isn't yellow right now.
Yeah, 100%. You want to have max value out of your reveals at the start of your turn.
There it is. Oh, Steve just lets it. Steve, wait, hang on. Steve remembers. Maybe
he's like, hold up.
Trigger on the they're resolving the trigger on the insignia first. Draw the card, and then no deflecting.
Yeah,
edge.
it looks like he's well, maybe. Do we know it was in his hand?
I saw it.
Okay, so
I thought I saw it. I either saw it or I'm a serial liar, and I'm not sure which one right now.
Either way, Arthur is down.
Arthur is in fact down. Steve potentially, another option is Steve perhaps thinking that allies are a less likely route, because Arthur is dead on board to vanish from sight, might just be choosing to preserve a card in hand to be able to push a devastating Rending Flames.
I can see that. Yeah, instead of going the allies route, going for the big almost combo-y kind of route where you just burst them out of nowhere with a lot of damage. It's gonna be tough, being going up against Xander 3. But it's not impossible.
It isn't impossible. The damage can rack up very fast, and it is only cold to Resolute Stand, and depending, not even that cold. So
We do have to remember that Xander still has the Serene Spirit as well, though.
yes,
So I mean, like, he's got a lot of
it's 21 to hit.
lot of life to get through.
I have seen higher damage Rending Flames though.
Oh yes, oh yeah, you can get that up. I mean, like, if you are able to do it on a turn where you go into like Lorraine 2 plus some hones, you know, you can plus some weapons, you can have a very, very large Rending Flames for sure.
So the Lorraine level, too many cards in hand to roll a die. We're just going to choose.
Well,
It is a hone.
speaking of a hone?
Ooh, I'm not sure that's what Steve wanted to see here.
I would wager no. That's probably not what he would like to see banished here. And I think he might pull a, let's see, Big Sword? I think he's deciding between the Bulwark and the Ornamental.
Yeah, that's true. The Bulwark is a pullable option here for Lorraine.
Both of them virtually representing 2 damage, right? One from the ally and itself for the Ornamental, and then just
The Bulwark,
Bulwark.
with the Rending Flames is effectively I have hone on board as well.
yeah, yep.
So that's it represents 4 damage in that, but oh man, I wonder if Steve's math was really devastated by that hone. It certainly.
Yeah.
What other outs, Kel, do you think? What could he be looking for? Because last game we did see some fiery momentum plays.
I mean, like, the fire momentums could be good, right? But like, he doesn't have enough to like one shot him with the fire momentum right now.
Cremation Ritual on the Blazing Bowman.
So you could attack with Bowman, Cremation Ritual into Bowman, but you need more than that though. Still, like,
Yeah, you do. You sure do.
like it either way. So he is opting for the Bulwark.
Goes for the Bulwark.
So that does represent, you know, like you said, Dan, exactly like a larger Rending Flames attack.
Yeah, yep, there's the Rending Flames right there. So he's really looking at, and again, like, you kind of have to make your opponent respect the Rending Flames, and if
Yeah.
Poe's not going to put the Nullifying Lantern out right now, it's
Yeah.
probably time to drop it, because I think Poe's next choice next turn, if he's not dying for cards, is that Nullifying Lantern.
Oh, for sure. Like, you have to be thinking about that, like 100%. And so, all right, we have a Creative Shock. I
Creative
mean, this is
Shock.
going to be a way to build cards in the
Yeah.
graveyard at least.
Yep.
Discarding a
Flame Run.
Swordsman.
Easy
and-
choice.
Yeah, yeah. So that's 2 additional fire cards in the bin.
You have to have enough to swing with Bowman, banish to get the buff on Bowman as well. You need to make sure you have enough fire cards in there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think I counted. I tried to
Okay.
count fast. It looks like 7 cards there. There's the Rending
Okay,
Flames.
here we have it.
Didn't even try to bait out the he's at level 3. He didn't even try to bait out the Resolute with the Bowman, which is interesting.
All right, so yeah, he's just going for it. Rending Flames. We got the 3 banish.
And then putting 2 down for the Bulwark as well, potentially, or maybe not.
I think he only has 1 card in
Only
hand.
1 card in hand, so just pushing a Rending right now.
So it's just going to be a 6
Yep.
rending plus
6 Rending and the Bowman.
plus the Bowman. I mean, it's still like damage, right? You still need to like chip him up and
Yep.
you know, make him gain all the life.
So there's the respect for the second Rending. Poe says, that is not your only Rending in hand. I'm going to make sure that we prevent your second one. Put the Nullifying Lantern down. Go to our Blinding Steel trigger, reveal only the... Oh, no, we have two sites.
So yeah, we're gonna gain 6 life and deal 2 damage here. That's an easy target. You know, clear up the board, kill the Bowman right there.
Yep.
You don't really care about your opponent's life at this point. You just want to be unkillable, and then you'll get there eventually. Especially with you know, a grip full of cards like well, he needs a couple Light Weavers to
Yep.
you know, help with that. But I think he's still like in a very comfortable situation.
Lorraine only 19 life. He could go for the Gleaming Cut on the face here. Deal. Yep, it looks like
I think
that's
so,
that
yeah.
looks like what's happening. Just deal 3 more. Put him to 6. Lightweaver is starting to look like a lot of damage on the next turn potentially. Plus, we're gonna get a card off of that too.
Yeah. So 3, draw a card.
Draw from Insignia too.
Yeah, draw from pardon me, Insignia as well. So that one's gonna go into the hand. Okay, so Dan, if you're looking at this, if you're Steve, how are you feeling? Because I can't help but feel like if I was in Steve's position, I would feel like a little bit on the back foot here. If it does feel like a little bit of a climb. I've come faced against Luxem before, and it does feel sometimes insurmountable against like the constant life gain,
Yeah.
the constant value, being able to kill the allies turn after turn.
I mean, I think Steve's feeling like he's on the back foot now. I want to mention there was no there was no draw from the Insignia because Influence is not 6 or less. We sometimes have a little trouble counting the cards here. So the Insignia, Insignia is only draw when your Influence is 6 or less. You got plenty to not have to draw there. But yeah, Steve really in a position where he needs to push a remarkable amount of damage through now in order to close the game. And does not look like he's seeing it. Steve just kind of actually just treading water right now, getting hasties down, attacking, trying to find a combo kill. Steve's body language looking to me though like he's not feeling particularly good.
I've been there, man. I've
Yep.
been there, especially as like an fire aggro player. It's like you're fighting a brick wall, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of like punching the brick wall, hoping it chips away, and then it just heals. the brick wall just heals back up. He did attack with the bulwark, just doing as much as he can.
He's doing it. He's just pushing his damage, but Poe's about to heal every piece of damage done last turn, and is getting ready for a lethal Lightweaver's Assault. Steve.
Oh yeah, another card.
There's another card. Yeah, I think Steve is maybe a little bit resigned at this point. And
so let's see.
let's see where we're going with
Juggle
this.
Knives for 1 point of damage and another card.
A little more damage. Yep.
And this is all during
Recollection. So every card in hand here too is going to be able to use Lightweaver's Assault when played. Is going to deal damage equal to the number of cards in memory, as well as the damage on the reveal here.
There's a Gleaming Cut as well.
A Gleaming Cut for more cards.
2 additional cards.
And Uncover the Plot as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
Poe's
that's-
pretty happy with that. I think he drew into a Sight and a Lightweavers.
Yeah. Poe has everything he needs now for Luxem to take this. It was a very tight match between the two. Going to game 3, Steve certainly saw what he needed to game 2, but on the back foot basically from turn 1 with Poe getting the start, really puts a damper. You know, think about this. If Steve had the start, that Nullifying Lantern is down a turn later.
Lightweavers 1, Lightweavers 2. That's
There it is.
game.
He just shows the 2. We got it. We got it.
That's a lot of damage, especially when you're only a level 1 champion.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, that proves here, like, Poe-An is the only Luxem player here at day 1, right? And I think it helps to prove that the deck still has legs, right?
Oh, of course.
I think it proves that the deck is still very, very strong, especially against one of the more aggressive decks. Let's be honest, like, Fire Aggro Lorraine is as aggressive as it gets, and he was able to just kind of weather the storm and get to a point where it's just like, hey, you know what, I can gain enough value, gain enough life to where you just can't kill me.
Exactly. And remarkably, too, in our 2 matches that we saw at the start of this, the 1-of deck among the 16 took the match each time.
That's true.
Mean, I guess Steve was a 1-of deck as well. So there we got it either way on this one. But the Luxem and the Diana both taking wins at this by round 2 in the tournament. So looking like they're pretty good here. Steve, of course, not out of the event at all. Is easily able to get paired up against some other matches and push that damage and get lethal right away. But now Poe-An going to be going to some other matches that are maybe not quite as fast, and Poe's going to have to make sure. Now, obviously, Poe is, you can tell from his play, he knows the lines, he knows the numbers.
For sure.
Not taking very long thinking about things. Gets to his Lightweavers, pushes the lethal as soon as possible, not dirtling around too much.
Oh, I think you have to be, though, at this event,
You have
right?
to.
Like, draws are bad, and you really need to get through the games, and you need to actually kill your opponent.
But we are going to see now, going into these future rounds, some more interesting matchups, more of these decks that are pushing. Again, we have 5 rounds left of the tournament. Many decks here that are able to push damage a lot like Fire Lorraine.
Do you like Rye? I hope you like Rye, because we might have a few Rye games coming up.
If you like Rye, this is the event for you. We're going to be having more of those. If you like Merlin, we're going to see more of that. Certainly lots more cool decks are coming your way, so make sure to stay tuned for those.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. We are here at day one of Grand Archive World Finals. We're in the middle of the Swiss rounds here. I'm joined by my wonderful co-caster, Clem.
Hello there. It's very exciting being here. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. So we've seen a lot of interesting things. So obviously, as we know, the deck lists have been open to all the other competitors and such. There's a lot of fire ride today.
Yeah, I've been genuinely surprised, but well, I guess I shouldn't have been if I think about it a bit more, because it's a very, very solid choice. You know, it's a very reliable deck. It has not that many counters out nowadays, so it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, in this format, you don't necessarily have to play for 7-0, right? To get in, you really need to 4-3. If you 4-3, you're guaranteed to go to the next day. And in this format specifically, we're able to swap decks between days 1 and 2. So if you do make it in with whatever you choose for the meta call on the first day, you'll be able to play whatever your sleeper pick is.
Yeah. You get to do the solid pick, the reliable pick day 1, and then go what you're comfortable with and your usual deck for day 2. And I think that's very good, and I think that the setup for that is very great. And as you can see it on the deck list for day 1 as well, that there are some interesting picks for decks here. Like, I didn't expect Kaban to go with Rai for day 1, but because he's always on allies. So it was definitely a surprise for me, but I think it's a very good choice. You know?
Yeah, like you said, Kaban has been a constant performer in all of these events with different types of decks. We've seen him run a lot of wind allies. We've seen him run water allies with Lorraine, even like back in the dispersion days. And even going forward, we saw at Nationals, we saw the wind crux, like mid-range kind of deck where he focused on that rally the peasants. So he was able to basically run like a lot of Anthem styles where he had the Banner Knights and everything, and the Phalanx Captains just bringing more damage onto the board and kind of just pressuring and accruing value over time. But it's interesting to see like that kind of deck is actually being played by 2 other competitors today.
Yeah, so the thing is, they have been playing more so combo decks, like Matt and Christian. They've been on more combo decks, and now they're playing Crux Lorraine, this seems like everyone swapped their archetypes for this day 1. All right. So yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing them do everything. Like the lists we've gotten it very interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely. It's definitely going to be a good day today. We're going to see a lot of really, really high level Grand Archive play. We're going to see a lot of players do things that people would never expect, and I think we're just going to be going right into the matches here.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Kaban from True Champion Gaming, and I'm so thrilled to be part of Grand Archive's first World Championship. Can't wait to start playing. What got me into GA is, it was actually just a long-term friend of mine that briefly mentioned the cool collectability side of GA, and I immediately dismissed it. He showed it to me, I looked it up, it was still in the Kickstarter phase, so there were some details that weren't out yet, and I was like, yeah, it looks really neat, but I'm not really looking to get into this at this time. And then he mentioned later on, like, yo, you know, that really cool collectible game that I talked about, well, they're doing this really awesome tournament, and it's going to be in Houston. There's a ton of really good prizing on the line. You should really check it out. And that caught my attention because at that time in my life, I was starting to really actually pursue competitive card play. So I looked it up and just immediately was really enthralled in it. I spent like the whole next week just researching the game, learning all these really cool things like the Omni decks and just so many neat ideas that they were trying to pursue. And with the fantastic prize support of Ascent Houston as well, I was hooked. And so I gave it a go. I really liked the gameplay. I still, to this date, think that it's the best gameplay that I've seen out of the 15 TCGs that I've played in my life. And I think that keeps me going as well because it really just feels like it's super solid gameplay. The developers care about the game. There's more and more tournaments being added all the time, and the community is really fantastic. So it's been my most enjoyable TCG experience in my life so far. Who am I most excited to play against in the tournament? That's a really tricky question. There's a lot of really fantastic competitors here. I think I'm going to pick out a couple, and one of them would be Jason Limelight May. I'm also going to say Sean and Burner. They've been really fantastic players, topping every single Ascent and high-level event that they've gone to, similar to me. And so they feel kind of like rivals, I guess, just because of our records in major events. And Burner especially, I'm not sure if people know this, but Burner and I have played in every round 1 of Top Cut of every major event outside of Auckland because he didn't go there. But Houston, we played round 1 in Top Cut, Ontario, and Nationals as well. So, you know, he's up on me right now. He won 2 of them. I won 1 of them because obviously I won Houston. But hopefully I'll get my revenge on him. So Burner, I'll see you in Top Cut of day 2.
So looking at this deck list here from Caven, we have a lot of pretty standard things. So we do see 4 Advent the Stormcaller. However, that's not something that everyone's been running today.
Yeah.
It's definitely a bit of a risk in some cases to use Advent. There's a lot of counterplay to it, whether it's a Blanche or a Safeguard Amulet. However, it does allow you to scry your deck for whatever your like level is, right? So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so we're able to basically stack the deck in the way we want
Yeah.
to find our kill cards, to find our combos, to find our spell shields, whatever we need to survive. That kind of
Yeah.
focus there.
It's also a great way to gain levels late game if you haven't gotten any enough arcane cards to banish. Advent is a great way to do it, and you get that little push you need.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Sean's running here.
Yeah. So Sean seems to be on a similar kind of ride deck, but the biggest difference is the Gloam Spires, which I think Gloam Spire is very good to balance the -1 card from the Serene Spirit. I really like the addition of the card. I used to, I undervalued it back in the day, but I think with the Serene decks becoming more popular, Gloam Spire is really shining right now. And he only plays 3 Advents, but it's here again, surprisingly, which is, I think that's still a good choice. Like, it never hurts to get some more damage in, even though it can be countered. They at least use their counter for that instead of something else.
Yeah, a big thing to note between the 2 decks here, between Sean's and Caven's, is that in Sean's deck, we don't have a Fire Resonance Bauble, but in Caven's we do, so he is going to have a little bit of a materialization advantage.
Yeah, definitely. It depends. Yeah. I think Sean plays Quicksilver Grail in main board, when main deck, and Kaban plays Grand Crusader's Ring. That's also an interesting difference.
Yeah, I've seen some players work with the Quicksilver Grail into the Tome of Knowledge, but also sometimes into the Safeguard Amulet, right? Because if you're going to run any form of removal, being able to protect that Safeguard Amulet is quite nice. The ability to hide that from your opponent and make them think, oh, is it going to be Tome of Knowledge? Is it going to be a Safeguard Amulet? Is it going to be a Chalice of Blood, for example?
Yeah, definitely. Like, Chalice is a very common thing to hide under a Grail because, you can bait your opponent very easily.
Yeah, especially with the serene spirit of serene spirits in general, being able to utilize that Chalice of Blood is a lot easier. You only have 25 health as a level 3 champion when you're not playing, Tenoris or I guess Guardian classes or the Warrior classes. Yeah. But we're gonna be setting up match 1 here.
Let's see how it goes. Rolling to
come
start.
in.
Let's see.
Looks like. I think that was Caben won the dice roll.
Caben won. Oh, that's a pretty spirit he got there.
And Sean seems to heavily agree with that. He wants to see that altered fire spirit. Very beautiful.
Yeah,
very beautiful setup.
It's altered serene spirit, so he's glimpsing 6. He's obviously in this matchup. Peace for Union's not very good, so he's gonna bottom that immediately.
Yeah, definitely don't need to stop attack declarations from coming in when you're looking at a matchup of 2 Rise against each other. But he does have the Creative Shock, which is a great start.
I think he got 2 Creative Shocks, it seems, which is an optimal start for any fire deck, I think.
Yeah, if you're not going to be able to get those increasing dangers for the first turn, then picking up a Creative Shock is just super value. The classic pass turn, move on from there.
Yeah. It's guaranteed way to put cards down. Unfortunately, I can't see Sean's hand, but it seems that he's gonna glimpse 3 to the bottom. It's a bit. All right, so it's 3 to the bottom. And draw 3. And then 1 for turn. That's on. He's got card advantage, which is very strong.
Oh, Gloamspire. Oh, that's
immediately.
fantastic.
That's great.
That is exactly what he's looking for early on. That's why they played in the deck. Being able to use that Serene Spirit to look for the Gloamspire.
It does its job. The question is, do you use it now? Because that would give Caven a big advantage here. But I'm not sure. Yeah, probably he's not gonna. What do you think?
In this matchup specifically, Gloamspire may not have like a significant amount of value, but
Yeah.
being able to activate it at fast speed means
That's-
that in response to someone drawing with their
Yeah.
alignment counters, you're actually able to utilize it for only your own gain a lot of the time.
True. Yeah. It seems Caven has 2 more creative shocks in hand. That's pretty strong. The question is, does he discard an arcane card here or creative shock?
So he does actually have a lot. He's
Yeah.
gonna discard that creative shock. Wants to keep holding on to certain things.
Yeah.
Wants to make sure he doesn't lose too much.
Exactly.
Needs to banish the arcane cards here. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to take too much risk going any other direction.
And there's an arcane blast. His hand is interesting right now. It's very stacked with arcane cards.
Yeah, one of the downsides here is we don't see a dungeon guide available in his
Yeah.
hand, so he's actually not going to get the easier level 3 and the fast turn on it.
Yeah, but luckily he can dig for it with creative shocks though. He has 1 left. So some puzzle. And standard play so far. Sean levels up to 1 as well.
Yeah, so on Caven's side, we're going to have the banishment of the Power Overwhelming. On
Yeah.
Sean's side, we're going to be losing the Voltaic Sphere. Neither of those being super significant losses for them.
Yeah. Standard disguise. Ugh.
It would be a little bit tragic if we saw them lose like an Erratic Bolt.
Yeah,
However, in most cases, I don't see them putting that down for banishment.
Yeah, especially in Caven's case when he's only playing 1 erratic bolt in his main deck. It's definitely interesting. Okay, so he's got
Oh, an increasing danger down there.
yeah.
If I
That's
recall
what
correctly.
that's what I saw for Glimpse as well. I certainly a fire card. All right.
Sean's gonna go for it. He's trying to dig. He's trying to find
Yeah.
something. Hopefully, looking for another arcane card there into the potential banishment if he does level up.
Yeah, very likely. It's an interesting matchup. Like here, you really have to value your spell shields as well. You can't really play. Can't sacrifice them for level.
And Cayman actually has quite a few of
Yeah.
spell shields in his hand there, so
He's got
he's holding
2
on,
spell
trying to figure out
shields.
whether or not he wants to go for the level up or potentially just take out either a bauble or a GCR.
Yeah, or just it seemed like he was looking at safeguard as well. GCR is a
One of the risks
solid
of taking
choice.
a bauble or a GCR here, though, is that you can put yourself in a position where your opponent who's controlling the Gloamspire will actually have a significant advantage in when that Gloamspire activates.
yeah.
You might not be able to maintain a lower influence to regain value from it as well.
Exactly. You have to be very careful here with it. Oh, it uses a spell shield to pay for. It seems a creative shock. Yeah, a slow speed creative shock.
Oh, another
Dungeon
spell
Dungeon.
shield.
Yeah, but I got the dungeon guide.
Got
So
the dungeon guide.
it's
Oh,
worth
it looks like he's
but
thinking about discarding the Scry. That's very
Yeah.
risky in this deck.
That's interesting choice.
Nice. So he goes for the dungeon guide to 2. Knows he'll have enough cards in his memory to go to 3 next turn if he wishes.
Yeah, exactly. And 2 spell shields. Oh,
2 spell shield
That's-
arcanes. It's going to be interesting. So he's in a good position here with the number of influence he has. We see a total of 5, so he has 4
yeah.
in memory, 1 in hand, and also the availability of his Grand Crusader's ring. He could banish that should he choose to.
yeah, and he can dig further, maybe for another dungeon guide on the end of Sean's turn. But he's definitely gonna get a lot of value off of Gloamspire as well.
Yeah. Taking the dungeon guide to level 2 actually is a pretty good answer to the Gloamspire being on the field. It
Yeah.
forces you to remain on a pretty low influence.
Yeah, absolutely. And a spell shield and an arcane blast possibly. I'm not sure. Went out for Sean's level there.
Sean is holding a careful study in his hand, I
Yeah,
believe.
that is. I think careful so is a very interesting card. Most of the time it's a 1 or 2 cost draw 2.
Yeah, the ability to gain those enlightenment counters and then also utilize the efficiency of the card is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's a wonderful card, I think. It's creative shock, also slow speed.
Yeah, really big fan of how these Rye decks are built. Essentially, they're very focused on the concept of efficiency, which basically means for every level you have, the card will be cheaper to use. So reserve
Yeah.
cost of 8, for example, efficiency. Let's say you're level 6, it means you'll only have to pay reserve cost of 2.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, Resolute Stand is an obvious discard here, with basically just the dungeon guides attacking in the matchup.
Yeah, and so we know that both players here are working on Rye Storms here, which is based on the number of arcane cards you have in banishment. That will determine the level of your champion.
Yes.
So we're going to want to discard a lot of the non-arcane cards, make sure that we focus on banishing the right cards. And in this case, that's what Sean set himself up to do.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So it seems that Cayman is leveling up, and it's an erratic. All of his spell shields
Whoa.
are out. It seems.
Did he lose his
Yeah.
erratic bolt?
Yeah, he lost the one erratic bolt he had.
So interesting. So he's going to be down 1 kill card option there. Erratic
Yeah.
bolt being very, very strong due to the fact that it pairs well with the power overwhelming.
Yeah.
You're able to deal level damage essentially.
Exactly. It's I think, but maybe he was focusing on leveling because here speed is very important, right? And it's he. I think if the value you get from leveling up is more, and he has a arcane blast still. So I think the okay. So he's gonna draw a card. He's gonna do the careful study for it to draw 2 cards possibly.
He's removing his 3 enlightenment
Yeah.
counters for the ability to draw a card here. Plays an arcane sight, so we'll get a temporary level.
Yeah. And he's got 2 arcane blasts in hand, so he's on level 10 right now.
Yeah, arcane blast
Arcane
for one
Blast.
cost here is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's in a good spot right now. And he has another one in hand, so he could just go for it but Sean has 4 cards in hand.
Yeah, Sean's also only level 2, so he only
Yeah.
has 22 health available to him.
Yeah. And he also there's no he cannot spell shield this turn, as he would need arcane for that, so he cannot prevent the damage.
Yeah, so we are going to see the arcane blast here.
Yep.
We're going to see the lineage release of the spirit. So
Goes-
spirit goes to banishment. He's going to recover for 6 there, and then also take the 11 from the arcane blast,
Yeah.
leaving him. Well, it should have been 6 off lethal, but we also are going to see the dungeon guide coming here.
Yeah, so
Swing
it's
for 1.
He's a 4 off of lethal now, but so now he's forced to level up next turn, I think. Because there's not much else he can do here to guarantee a survival. Because if Gaben has like 1 more kill card, unless he has another spell shield, it's a bad spot right now. He lost the advent of the Stormcaller, a power overwhelming, and an arcane disposition, if I saw correctly.
So we are going to see Stormseeker come out here.
Yeah.
Cayman actually has no damage counters on his champion, so he's in a pretty comfortable place early on. We're going to see level 9 here on Rye due to the 6 arcane cards in the banishment.
Yeah.
One of the things I gotta say that Cayman's doing incredibly well in this matchup is keeping himself on a low enough influence that Sean is unable to use that Gloamspire. It essentially blanked his first turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. The one time he was able to activate the card, both players drew something into memory, and it just put such a weird pressure state on Sean that he was essentially down a card, even though he went second.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, that's why Gloamspire is a double-edged sword, because it's extremely good for you, but it can help your opponent as well very easily. It seems that Sean just went with careful study and drew 2 cards off of it, which I think it's the power of all of the efficiency cards in this Rye, is that gaining levels is incredibly easy, so you get to really utilize all of them.
Yeah, and he managed to get another careful study there. So this is the power of the Rye deck, your ability to either glimpse or draw a significant amount of cards. Anytime you're able to glimpse,
And
we're
a
going to see a third careful study.
That's really, really good. Gets to draw 2 again, and if he wants to, he refilled his hand very, very quick
We
with
have a
those careful studies.
Full hand Sean here, hopefully looking for the ability to I essentially push lethal into Cayman. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. Doesn't have a Serene Spirit left. Cayman has 0 damage counters. He's 7 off lethal, which is a single fireball, single arcane blast.
Yeah.
At this point, even I would want to say a single erratic bolt, but I'm pretty sure Cayman did banish the erratic bolt that he has.
Yeah, it seems so. And we're gonna.
One of the biggest downsides here for the matchup is that Careful Study, as fantastic of a card as it is, you have efficiency, you're able to play it for free, get those enlightenment counters, push yourself to be able to draw. Sean didn't have any way to filter out cards in his deck. He didn't have Advent of the Stormcaller. He didn't have a Scry the Skies for 9 in this case, and he wasn't able to set up the deck where he could use those enlightenment counters to draw the exact combos he needed. Whether that's a defensive combo and going with Spell Shield Arcane, in response to your declaration of attack, I'm going to use 3 enlightenment counters to draw a card. With that, I'll put 2 down, and I'm gonna play my Spell Shield Arcane. Try to block the damage there.
It seems it's interesting. He was checking the banishments of both players, but now they're checking their material decks. I'm not sure if he passed the turn or not, but he has a full grip.
Yeah, so we definitely have a pass turn here. So Kevin is looking for his materialization. Safeguard Amulet, fantastic. It's very far ahead. It's just a good choice for him to play it safe, play it smart, make sure there's no possible way that Sean can come in and one-turn combo him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the 4 damage is very detrimental. So if you can see Sean's hand for a second here, he has the Spell Shield, he has 2 Arcane Blasts, and he has 2, essentially dead cards in his hand now due to the Lineage release. He cannot play the Creative Shocks.
And it's too bad in this matchup that he can't play the Creative Shocks either. That is, I believe, the only counter that they have to a reactionary Spell Shield in this deck. There's no other fast spells besides Fireball, but Fireball into a Spell Shield is it's gonna have the same effect as just letting the default attack resolve. Caven's hand, I believe we see 2 Peaceful Readings.
Yeah, and a Resolute Stand, all of which are unfortunately okay. So increasing danger, I think we're at the point where it's also doesn't matter too much. He's gonna scry the Sky C. He's on level 10 right now, so he gets to basically rearrange his deck the way he wants to.
So Caven realized he didn't have the ability to kill that turn. So basically what he's going to do is he's going to pull out the Safeguard Amulet. Safeguard Amulet will hopefully protect him through an entire turn alongside the fact that he has Serene Spirit. And we're going to just look for a fast kill combo here. We're going to look for probably 2 cards on top with the ability to kill. If he finds a Careful Study or even Appear into Mana, it could give him the opportunity to kind of set up a couple more cards in that stack. But everything else that's not going to be immediately useful, like things like you probably don't need Power Overwhelming in this case. You might not even need a Spell Shield Arcane or an Arcane Disposition. He might just be going straight for, I need Careful Study, I need Peer into Mana, I need Arcane Blast Fireball, whatever it is going to be to end the game for him.
Absolutely. It seems he's cried 6 to the bottom, or glimpsed 6 to the bottom, and I think that was definitely a good choice here, seeing how he had 2 more dungeon guides and such on the top of his deck in the top 10 cards, so he wasn't gonna kill anytime soon. I think that's also the power of glimpsing. Scry the Skies is a very, very strong card in this deck because you get to set up your turns and see what you can do.
And when you're Sean in this position, you're looking towards potentially what your materialization might be. I think he's probably going to go for something a little more aggressive, right? At this point, you can't play defensively. You don't have a Serene Spirit anymore. You have 19 damage counters on your 25 health champion. You probably are looking to go with probably Tome of Knowledge, activate your Tome of Sacred Knowledge afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, he's going for Quicksilver Grail.
Sacred Lightning, my apologies.
Yeah.
Quicksilver Grail, Safeguard Amulet, maybe?
I would assume so. Or maybe he's just going for the Tome route.
It's very possible the Quicksilver Grail goes into the Safeguard Amulet on the merit that Caven has no Enlightenment counters. His ability to draw next turn could be stifled, and it could give him the chance to... Oh, interesting.
Spell Shield into nothing.
So we're going to do a pre-recollection of Spell Shield, which means that Sean is most likely going to pump an Arcane Blast into himself for 11 Enlightenment counters.
That's an interesting play.
So we know that Caven has 1 card in hand, so he actually has nothing he can activate at fast speeds to deal with this kind of self-draw.
Yeah. It's hard to block it.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of this play. This is fantastic. So we're going to scry the Skies here for 9. We're going to set up the top 3 to 4 draws. We're also going to be banishing the one
It
card
was
we
a-
put down for the Tome
yeah.
of Knowledge.
It was a tome of knowledge then. And now he's gonna get to glimpse 10, which is, once again, it's extremely good. And with the spell shield arcane, that's guaranteed, you know. He gets to set up what he wants to do next turn and possibly go for the kill, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is whoa. There's
that's
I see a Gloam Spire, I see
Fireball,
Fireball, two
increasing
I think there's two
dangers.
fireballs actually.
I think, is it? I think it's maybe a creative shock and 2 increasing danger fireball. Gloam Spire.
It's too bad he's already lineage release. He's unable to use that Fireball to his
Yeah.
advantage. There's an Arcane Sight there though, which would give him the temporary level counter.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna
they
be
get to draw a
tough.
card as well off of it. But Caven still has the Safeguard Amulet down and active. He could banish it anytime.
A
to prevent the
Safeguard
damage.
Amulet is fantastic right now. It entirely blocks the advent of the Stormcaller. It just gives you so much flexibility and room.
Yeah, it is exactly what Caven needed to survive. But you can see how good glimpsing is by just looking at both of the players' glimpses, with like half of the cards being unplayable late game, or basically not ideal. And I think it's very, very good here.
Yeah, part of me wondered whether or not Sean was actually going to go for the second scratch side there. I saw it in his glimpse. He could have taken it potentially if he was bottoming enough cards to maybe go for the value on it, especially if he is going to be using Arcane Blast to himself for the 11 enlightenment counters.
Yeah.
Since he has 2 on himself from the inherited effect of level 2 Rye plus other lingering enlightenment counters, it'll allow him to draw up to 4 cards.
Yeah. So he's thinking about what line to take here, because he's gonna draw the top card of his deck into his memory here. If I saw correctly, it was an Arcane Blast that he left there.
So we're going to be activating the Tome of Sacred Lightning here. He's going to be able to activate it to banish a card for a level up, so he could go to
Yeah.
level 11.
Which would be
Yeah, it's fantastic too because if you do banish the card, you're able to just draw a card, so you can cycle in whatever it is. He's gonna get rid of that one card. I can't quite see what that is though. I think it is an Arcane Blast.
It is an Arcane Blast. It was, and he's gonna
Okay, so he is gonna Arcane Blast himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caven had his hand ready over the Safeguard Amulet. He was feeling it, but Sean knew what he wanted here. He wanted to be able to draw.
Sean was running the plan, and he did go through with that.
Ooh, Arcane Sight.
Okay. He's gonna get another temporary level, so he's on level 12 now.
On level 12 here.
He gets to draw up to 4 cards from his enlightenment counters.
Yep, so we're gonna see the first one available here to him.
Yeah.
I want to say that deep down I really wanted to play the Advent. I wanted to play the Advent, allow Caven the opportunity to banish a Safeguard Amulet, and then just do nothing with it.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a Voltaic Sphere here. Caven deciding if he wants to banish Safeguard Amulet. He is going to do that.
Banish it. Which is usually that's a risky play, but because Sean already lineage released, he cannot go Fireball in response or on Caven's turn.
Yep. It is nice that he opened with the Voltaic Sphere, though. It's a 2-cost slow spell here, and then he's able to banish it from his graveyard to make the next spell cost 1 less. So we are going to see the Advent of the Stormcaller here.
And
we're gonna see a lot of levels, a lot of cards able to find here.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be Sean basically digging through his entire deck looking for that kill combo.
Looking to. Oh, so many fire cards here.
Well, that's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah. And
It's not a lot of arcane. He does get a couple decent things. I wonder if he's gonna go for like a pretty heavy banishment. I don't quite remember what I saw in his hand though.
I unfortunately also don't remember. But so he only managed to find 5 arcane cards here. And a lot of other interesting picks. Or interesting cards. Like dungeon guides. I'm interested to see what he's going to do here.
He's just going to bottom them all. Anything he doesn't immediately need, he just throws straight to the bottom of the deck. He doesn't need the dungeon guides. At this point, doesn't even really need the scry. You can just use another Advent of the Stormcaller and kind of dig that in that regard.
Yeah. And he goes for the dungeon guy because there's not much use for going through face with damage from Advent, and he keeps the other Advent on top. So he's setting up his next turn.
Yeah, so the way Advent works in this case with the Safeguard Amulet is that Advent says for each card banished this way, which is in reference to the Arcane Element cards, choose a unit and deal 2 damage to it. Now, each of these instances of damage is simultaneous, but they're separate. So
Yeah.
Safeguard Amulet blocking every instance of 4 damage this turn, it completely denies all the damage from Advent. However, in Sean's case, he's just Adventing so that he's able to dig for whatever that card is. He
Yeah.
needs to find his Arcane Blast so he can play them for free. At this point, he's level, I believe, 16.
Yeah, he's just, if he has the Arcane Blast, he can immediately just go for them next turn. And then, unless Caven has a... yeah, but yeah, he also has his one more Erratic Bolt left, which he just found, which is maybe what he prefers in this case with how high his level has gone.
So Erratic Bolt is level damage. He would
Right,
need, he would
two
need to hit
Erratic
essentially
Bolt,
the full 24 to make the kill here, or the full 25 to make the kill
Yeah.
here. Right, we have 0 damage counters on Caben,
Still,
and
yeah.
it's gonna be really tough because the thing is with Sean, if he doesn't find the kill here, I don't think it matters that he's holding on to a spell shield.
Yeah,
I think Caben will have the kill in hand.
another one, yeah. But I think the Safeguard Amulet really is a detriment to Sean right now, because he can't go. He doesn't have the easy arcane blast here, so he has to really think about how he wants to proceed with this turn for the Erratic Bolts, because that's his biggest out here. He has to deal 25 plus 8 damage in total.
It's gonna be really tough to get through the Safeguard Amulet, right? I mean, we say tough, it's basically impossible at this point. Finding lethal in this situation, even with a Glow Spire on the field and available to him, is going to be very, very, very tight, very difficult. And I think he realizes that now. He's trying to find the angle. He's trying to figure out what it is. The Careful Study is available there.
It's definitely possible.
And you can stack the Arcane Sight, draw into your... I mean, gain a temporary level counter. You can draw into the Careful Study, use it for more Enlightenment counters, try to dig a little further, but there's going to be a point where you don't have enough cards to get the kill combo off. You know, Safeguard Amulet plus Serene Spirit just makes it too difficult, right? We talk about 25 damage lethal. He needs 29 damage lethal.
Yeah.
If he wants to do it in a single hit, right? If he's trying to do it with
Yeah.
That Erratic Bolt. But at that point, like you basically have to use Power Overwhelming. And in Sean's deck, he only has 2 of them, and I'm fairly certain he banished both of them.
Yeah, I saw one, but I think if he plays his cards right and gets lucky enough, I think there's a possibility of him setting up Erratic Bolts. I did not see what he banished, but it was certainly...
he banished all of them. So we're going to see Rai at level, I believe, 22, with one of them being temporary.
Mm-hmm. He just draws 2 cards.
So the
Careful study, yeah, to get more.
This is the all-in play. He's got 6 Enlightenment counters. He's able to draw 2 more cards here.
He has 1 Erratic Bolt in hand, if I see it right.
Gonna take 3 Enlightenment counters off. Draw a card. Does he have the combo, though? Does he have enough damage? He can play any efficiency card for free at this point. I've actually never seen a Rai at this high of a level.
Yeah, it's like, it's 21?
It's 21 plus the temporary from the
so
Arcane side, so he's 22.
22. So, yeah, the 2 Erratics, it just doesn't have... He may not have enough cards in hand right now to play the both of them.
Yeah, so if he was able to play the Arcane Blast and then the Erratic Bolt, it should, in theory, be lethal, but I don't think he has enough cards for that.
Yeah. But it seems he just passed the turn, and yeah.
Whoa, interesting. So Caven is going to take out a Storm Tyrant's Eye and going to be playing Advent here.
Yeah. See.
Oh,
yeah,
and
okay, there it is.
There it is. There's the damage coming in. And that's the fist bump.
Yeah. There's so many arcane cards in banishment for Sean's side though. That was an interesting match.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that went on in that match.
Yeah.
A lot of solitaire, some people might say. We're basically watching these players glimpse through their deck, stack it in a way that they're able to find the most efficient way to deal damage. And in this case, the most efficient way to deal damage is dealing with Serene Spirit of Fire. You also have Safeguard Amulet.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, how many cards does your opponent have in hand for Spell Shield Arcane?
Yeah, they might even have double sometimes. If their hand is built right, it's you have to play around a lot of things in the mirror here, because both decks are based on preventing damage until they can suddenly win.
Yeah, so looking at the sideboards here, I think Caben actually has a more advantageous sideboard. I see he has one more Arcane Disposition as well as the Erratic Bolt. I personally think that Erratic Bolt will make a big difference in this matchup for him. He does have a more aggressive material deck. We're seeing, like I said, with the Grand Crusader's Ring alongside the Fire Resonance Bauble, whereas Sean is using no Bauble and a Quicksilver Grail.
Yeah.
It gives Caben the ability to kind of push that drive a little bit further, right? If he doesn't have the enlightenment counters, he can utilize a materialization to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sean may have expected a lot less rise, because his sideboard is very Regalia hate targeted with 3 Spurn, 2 Disintegrates here.
Yeah, I do like the Pure into Mana. Hopefully that will kind of speed up the game process here, right? It'll be able to get more cards. We won't have another 30-minute Rye v Rye mirror. But, I mean, a lot of the time in these matches are really just spent figuring out the order of stack after you glimpse.
Yeah, it's very hard to figure out what exactly you want. So game 2 already started here with Sean obviously going first. And glimpsing... I missed how many cards?
I believe you put 4 to the bottom.
4, yeah. He was glimpsing 4 cards at the bottom. There, you can see him smile. He seems confident.
He gets the Gloamspire.
And immediately goes to it, draw with it.
It's a pretty neat start. I think that would be one of the most interesting starts to watch in a matchup that isn't the mirror.
Yeah.
Gloamspire giving you that value when you're playing Serene Spirit. It's something that I think would actually be really good in like Fire Diana decks, where you're kind of trying to turbo people down. You do see people play the Serene Spirit so that they can pull the dungeon guides faster, or pull some sort of floating memory in that case.
Yeah, what you need here.
Oh, that's a fantastic starting hand.
That's a great hand. That's a dream. You have
is it 2 creative shocks? Is it 1 or 2 creative shock? He has a dungeon guide in hand though.
Yeah.
That's just wow.
That's what you need. Oh no.
That's the wow factor right there.
Yeah, it's a great hand. And you have the peaceful to immediately just throw away for creative shock as well if you don't need it.
Yeah, pretty much. You just put down all your arcane cards, creative shock, pull another dungeon guide because why not? And
ooh. Oh, it's an arcane blast that he used to level up, and then 3 immediately dungeon guide to level 2.
Oh, so maybe he actually did get 2 dungeon guides in that situation. Then this is it's gonna set him very, very far ahead, right? He comes into the match, goes second, and then gets the dungeon guide.
Yeah, and gets the draw of Gloamspire as well. Thanks to Sean.
Are we gonna see? Oh, I was wondering if we were gonna see a creative shock there, or if he was gonna use the increasing danger.
Yeah. Okay. You got another creative shock, a Scry the Skies, and a Careful Study. My question is, what does he throw away here? What does he discard?
Ooh, tough. It's a tough choice here between the Careful Study. I think you probably discard the... Well, I was going to say the creative shock, but it looks like he's discarding the Scry the Skies.
I also would have expected a creative shock, because all but the other cards are a lot of value for him. It seems.
In retrospect, I say maybe don't keep the Scries, simply because you have Advent, right? You have the ability to look through what you have, because Advent does allow you to essentially glimpse your deck with an optional banishment. So you're able to reveal level cards, then you can banish any arcane cards, and the rest of them you can put on the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So it is essentially the upgraded arcane equivalent of the Scry the Skies in this situation.
It gets you a bit of bonus as well, chip in for damage, and it gets you levels. So it's a very versatile card. Like, I can see that it's usually a bit more advantageous than just Scry the Skies.
Gloamspire.
Gloamspire again.
Gloamspire, the exact number available for Caven to be getting a card in this situation.
Yeah, it's
Sean maybe thinking if he's able to do this, that means that Caven will likely or less likely banish arcane cards. We're going to see an increasing danger, so
Yeah.
Caven going to get another card down there. Cards he wasn't able to control, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of these cases, when you're playing Rye, you want to control what your banishment is. And
Exactly.
if your opponent is Gloamspiring you, whoa, pure to mana.
that's unexpected here. I think I didn't.
Yeah, that was honestly very unexpected. So pure into mana allows you to put 2+ level counters of enlightenment counters on your champion, so it's gonna be able to get him to
4,
draw
right?
a little bit.
Yeah.
But only 4 is
It's
just
just-
strange.
Yeah, for 4 cost to draw 1 card in the end is very interesting because he already used the level 2 rise ability earlier with the increasing danger as it was a mage spell, so he could get an enlightenment counter off of it. So it was just the 4 enlightenment counters for it. So
Whoa,
oh
interesting. Caven playing very defensively here.
yeah,
Early
that's-
safeguard amulet.
He's going for the sure ring, but I don't see another dungeon guide in his hand at the moment.
I think
So-
the pacing of the game's really comfortable for Sean here. We see
Yeah.
he's kind of just holding on to the game's pace, relaxing with it. He was able to stop Caven from immediately going to level 3 there with that banishment of cards he didn't necessarily want to get rid of, right?
Yeah,
Things
yeah.
that he holds in his hand that he's trying to hold on to for the future.
And as we could see earlier, when Caven picked up his memory, it may have even affected his choice because many of the cards he drew were non-arcane. I think most of them were actually not arcane cards. So it's
Yeah, I think I only see 3 in his memory there.
yeah.
When we're looking at the Rye Mirror, especially when we're talking about controlled banishments, right? We want to banish arcanes for levels when we go to Stormseer. Gloamspire and increasing danger both change up that strategy. So at any point, like the whole flow of the game for you can be immediately disrupted.
Yeah. I think Sean also realized it with this game that Gloamspire is also a great offensive tool for him.
Yeah, it's nice
Early
to see
game.
him adjust to that, right? In
Yeah.
the first game, he felt it seemed like he was very scared to use it.
Yeah.
He didn't want to give too much. He didn't want to give that influence. He didn't want to. He basically wanted to keep it as a neutral, but in the end, it ended up being a negative card for him because he had to use the card itself.
Yeah.
Right.
And he just played it, and then his turn 1 was basically wasted. So I think you can be a bit more brave here with Gloamspire, a bit more generous with the use. And he goes for I would think it's the Tome again, and Gloamspire goes away because he has more than 8 influence. He has 8 or more influence.
It's potentially a safeguard amulet.
Potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised as well. That's the safe play here. And he has the dungeon guide to go to level 3.
Whoa. He's
That's
lost 3 spell shield arcanes now.
That's either rough or a calculated move on his part. But you can see Caven checking out his banishment as well. He has 1 arcane blast and 3 spell shield arcanes
I mean,
in
when
his
we
banishment right
when,
now.
when we look at, if you're sitting across the table from someone who just banished their 2nd and 3rd arcane spell shield of the game, you must assume that they have something fantastic ready to immediately kill you. So
Yeah,
I guess Caven's materialization of the safeguard amulet on level 2 Rye was actually the perfect call. He knew
Yeah.
exactly what was coming. He knew that he needed the protection, and it's available to him now.
he saw, I think, what Sean was doing with the disruption and trying to rush, and I think he played around it very well. Now Sean has 5 cards in hand, and I think if I saw correctly, he had he had an erratic bolt in his hand earlier, which is right now it's not that strong, but definitely later it can become a very, very scary tool, I think.
Arcane Sight's going to get the temporary level counter. Just
Yeah.
draw, and
Cycle
not really
this-
much there. So we're going to see.
Him draw again, I think, from the enlightenment counters.
That's me every time, just fumbling the die, trying to
Yeah.
figure out what number I'm going down to. 5 to 2. I'm like, wait, where's the 2 on the D6? I can't figure it out, guys.
It's on the complete
I-
opposite side. So it's
Judge,
a
I
bit
need
rough.
I need help, Judge, please. Thank you.
It's interesting. So Sean is thinking. Unfortunately, can't see what he drew.
It's a classic loading wheel in the Rye matchup, right?
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
You're just constantly thinking, trying to figure out how do I kill my opponent? How do they kill me? Did I
Yeah.
miss something? Oh, enlightenment counter, yeah.
Yeah.
The usual stuff. So he's the control of the Quicksilver Grail with the Tome of Knowledge is really nice. You're able to get one card down a lot of the time and then utilize that for the controlled banishment again. Like, I'm gonna keep bringing this up in the Rye matchups, but controlled banishment is the most important thing in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the whole point of this matchup. I think of the whole Rye deck is you banish your arcane cards early.
Oh, a lot of damage coming in there.
Oh,
So
that
it's an
is-
Arcane Blast with on the stack. Caven will be banishing his Safeguard Amulet, and then I believe in response, Sean just immediately slammed down that
Yeah,
Fireball.
yeah.
There was
It's-
no hesitation at all.
Yeah, well, I think that's the play here because Fireball Fireball being fast speed is it's a very powerful little word on the corner of the card there that you get to push through even if they have defenses.
Yeah, so one of the other things that happened in the same situation is we saw on the stack, he rested his Tome of Sacred Lightning to banish a card from memory and draw another card.
Yeah, possibly was trying to gain a level there. So right now the Arcane Blast would deal, I think, 7 damage, putting Capen 2 off lethal, which is it's not something it's impossible to come back from, you know.
Yeah, in this situation, it's kind of risky though. You never want to see Rye with the ability to use Chas. And there it is.
There it is. So
we're gonna see the banishment.
and he goes to
It'll be 1 damage
Yeah.
net, essentially. So he'll go down 6 and then up 7 from the Arcane Blast,
Yeah.
factoring in the Safeguard Amulet.
and then Sean passes the turn. That was a strong turn, I think.
So
Despite
Caven looking to end step Creative Shock, I think,
yeah.
but can't because of his Spirit of Fire, I believe. DB
Yeah, he
Cannot
shouldn't
creative
be.
shock.
He shouldn't have been able to
should
do
not
that.
be able to Creative Shock in this situation
I
because of the
think
Speed and Spirit release.
That was.
Hopefully the judges catch that real quick
yeah.
here.
But he just checked his spirit was gone as well in banishment.
I'm not sure. I mean, part of me says maybe it was like on the stack before, but I don't
But
think it was.
Yeah, because everything was already placed into graveyard. So
yeah, everything had already been moved to its respective zone, so the game state's a little strange in this situation.
yeah, I wonder if they're going to catch it or not, because because that's the whole reason he could go up to level 3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like at this point both players have failed to kind of maintain the proper game state here.
Yeah,
But that is definitely one of the most noticeable ones to forget. You're like, I'm gonna lineage release, and then end step Creative Shock, and sometimes you just forget sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna see a power overwhelming.
Okay.
Power overwhelming will allow him to remove enlightenment counters.
Yeah, but I think they caught the.
I think they just caught it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it looks like the table judge for the stream actually just caught it.
And now this is an interesting, because both of them failed to catch it. So I'm just. All
Yeah.
right.
So it looks like they're most likely trying to figure out how to essentially rewind or what kind of game state can be adjusted and fixed
Yeah.
so that the game can continue. We'll have to kind of just see what the judges decide in this scenario.
Yeah, because it's very rough, because the whole Creative Shock was the reason he could go up to level 3, and after that, that's why you could play Power Overwhelming, and basically this whole turn was everything happened so fast.
I mean, the whole turn is blanked, but
Yeah.
we can talk about what he was trying to do here, right?
Yeah.
So Caven's combo here is you play the Power Overwhelming. Power Overwhelming allows you to remove enlightenment counters and gain level
levels,
counters
yeah.
equal to how many removed enlightenment counters you have. Gets him to level 15 or higher, is able to play the Advent of the Stormcaller for free.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, oh, look, we're playing Solitaire again. Let me just
Yeah.
dig through my deck as far as I can.
And then, because Sean has 2 cards in hand, it could even possibly be lethal if he has another Arcane Sight, or Arcane Blast in hand. Sorry. So
Yeah.
it seems they are checking what has been played this turn, or
Yeah, they're trying to reverse it in the exact order of what was played and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because so many things happened.
yeah, it was
Right,
so
so
fast.
creative shock is 3 down, draw 2. So
Yep.
so we've drawn 2 cards,
And then discarded one card,
discarded a card, and then we've banished to level up and drawn for turn.
and then power overwhelming to gain the levels. So now we
It's gonna be tough. Do you think they're gonna be able to find a way to reverse the game state, or do you think they're just gonna move on to the next game and just say, that it's a game loss in that situation?
It's interesting. I think this is a high level competition, and so it's definitely should be a bit more strict. But
Yeah.
I
I think
I
what it
really
really
don't
comes
know
down to is, can they actually revert the game
yeah,
state?
yeah, because theoretically you could, but then what was drawn, and he already saw the cards, so he got a glimpse into the future. So it's a very rough state to go back on right now.
Yeah, both players here deliberating. We have our table judge kind of
Yeah.
discussing with them, trying to figure out what the best course of action is.
It's let's see. I think it seems okay. So they're just it seems they're checking with the head judge.
Yeah, most likely deliberating with the head judge. Yeah.
All right.
And,
So
the Council of Judges will be speaking soon. Hopefully,
yeah,
the wonderful voice in my ear will be able to provide that information for us,
yeah.
so
we'll
that we
see.
can provide it to you guys at home.
Yeah, keep you all updated.
Yeah, just as an update, thank you guys for joining us here
Yeah.
for the first day of the World Stream. We are on round 3 of the Swiss rounds. We're going to be seeing 7 round Swiss tonight. Game 3 here, or sorry, game 2 here.
Game 2, yeah.
In the third round is going to be Caben versus Sean. Their screen names being True Champion Caben as well as Liftersil.
Yeah, and Capen won match 1.
Yeah, very
so-
convincingly. Very, very
yeah,
convincingly.
it was very decisive on his part.
Even
So-
though it was a very decisive match, it was interesting because it was a 30-minute match
Yeah.
where Sean spent 10 minutes trying to figure out what he was using with his advent, with his second advent, with the scry. He's sitting in this position where he's like, I have no out. And,
Yeah.
and I'd love to know if there's like player comms. He's sitting there like, oh man, what do I do?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, I want the insight to be able to see into his brain for like
Absolutely.
30 seconds in that.
But I think so. If he just had a few more cards in hand, he could have even won the game. But that's the rough part here, is that you just need to have the influence to do everything. And with Rai, it's easy to have that, but there is a point after which you're just so deep in, and you've played so many cards and dug so far that you just have 1 or 2 outs, and you can find those outs. But then the next part that you have to control well enough is the influence. So
I believe that is a game loss.
Yeah. It was a unfortunate mistake.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an unfortunate mistake, but in this situation, it's probably not as crippling to take a game loss in this situation. You're actually
Yeah.
pretty far behind in the game, and giving yourself the opportunity to play the third game is pretty important.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong, right? You're up a game.
Yeah,
Maybe it feels even worse
probably,
because
yeah.
you were up a game and you
And
make a really
then-
big mistake and you have to
Yeah.
move on to the third game there. So just to repeat that for everyone back at home, a game loss was issued against Caben, most likely for failure to maintain game state
Yep.
due to the illegal actions that were taken, right? He
Yeah.
lineage released
And
his
then
Spirit of
Creative
Fire, then played a Creative Shock, banished to level up with it, and then
Played more,
continued to draw and play more cards.
and everything happened so fast that he was like 3-4 game actions into his round by the time it was caught. So it was a bit rough, but you're at the high level tournament, so at this point you have to be able to keep up and pay attention to the little details as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a really high stakes tournament. There's a lot of stress going on, and I think Caben is trying to maybe stress that
It was an
it was an
accident.
accident.
Yeah,
right?
it was
I
a
mean,
mistake.
I mean, not everyone knows Caben. The way that like we that go to events and are able to
Yeah.
just loves the game.
Yeah.
Wants to play the game very legitimately.
Exactly. I don't.
It's never his intent to play it.
Yeah,
in that way,
I
but,
don't think that it was a deliberate. It was a cheating mistake. Probably he planned his turn ahead of time, and then he just didn't expect to be dealt more than lethal.
So we're going to be getting a 5-minute game extension here,
Yeah.
just due to all the time spent there with the judge call and such. So hopefully that will give these players enough time to finish out their round 3.
Yeah, and it's gonna be an interesting match because if they tie, that's also very bad for the both of them, with the ties being a double loss.
Yeah, ties being a double loss is really, really tough in this situation. It would actually change the way standings work, where 4-3 might not be the lowest cut to get in. It might actually be possible for someone to get in with a 3-4.
Yeah, because of double loss. So.
Yeah, so double loss, then it goes to tiebreaks in this case. Something else worth to note here, and if you've been watching since the beginning, you probably know this already. Players are not allowed to cut their opposing player's deck. You have to require the judge to do it. You let the judge know what they want the cut to be, and then that will be done there.
Yeah, it's very interesting, I think. But it's a best way to prevent anything going awry. So.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That was a smooth.
I wasn't expecting that at all. I couldn't see you stun locked me. I couldn't say anything. I was completely taken back by that. Awry is a. I'm gonna remember that. I remember that. I have to get Bifle and edgy games with that one.
Well, they're watching. They might know. Then they're gonna use it on you.
For all of you watching at home, make sure to use the Clem puns. They're good. They fit. So we might be seeing 4 cards at the bottom. We are gonna see 4. So it's a peaceful arcane sight. Not sure what else was down there.
Yeah. I got another peaceful though. Ooh, that's a arcane less hand. That
is not the greatest of starts here.
Yeah. Oh, he has 2 arcane cards, a Voltaic Sphere and
he does have a Creative Shock though. Creative Shock as an early start is pretty nice.
It's very solid, but he with only 2 arcane cards in his hand, the chances he has a 2/3 chance of hitting an arcane if he wants to level up immediately, which is a bit rough in this case. You want to get your arcane cards, like you said, manipulate.
Gloamspire.
Got it every game.
Every game. I mean, that's what the Serene Spirit of Fire is essentially for, right?
Yeah.
Your ability to glimpse 6, and then if you go second, you just have such a high chance of getting the card that you're looking for.
Yeah, especially if it's a 4-off. If you play playset, you have whatever you want. Oh, he drew a Dungeon Guide and another Arcane Blast, possibly.
We're going to see roll for banishment here. We're going to be losing a Scry the Skies.
This is what I was talking about. It's very unfortunate.
Scry the Skies is not what you want to lose. 1, that card is fantastic in your deck. 2, it just doesn't feel good to lose the arcane card. Also, he's going to Scry for 1, grab the arcane card, throw it into memory, and then go for the banish on that for level 2.
But he also did guarantee his arcane card later on when he can banish Voltaic Sphere from his graveyard to make his next arcane card 1 cheaper. So I think that's what he went for. And yeah, let's see. Yes.
I really like the mat that they're playing on.
Yeah.
And I want to point this out because the mat itself has a lot of zoning, but also it's flexible. It's not like written in, you have to put things here. As you can see, both of the players have different zoning preferences. I actually do the same thing as Sean. I love having my deck diagonally in the top right corner.
Yeah, I think it makes scrying, like Grimsync, easier.
It gives you more room on board to do different things.
And you get to separate the zones more clearly, Yeah,
so we're seeing the pretty standard autopilot beginning of the game here. Level up to 1, level up to 2. Maybe we'll see a dungeon guide here or there, but I think Kaven might be dungeon guiding this turn here.
That's the play here, I think, with...
Sean nods in response, knows it's happening. He saw it coming.
What can you do?
We're going to be keeping a 1 here, banishing another Arcane Blast and an Arcane Slate.
Interesting.
Gladly. No players have failed to find dungeon guide so far. That would be a little, maybe a little too tragic in this situation.
Yeah, that would be very sad. Although I think for Riot, that's not that as big as an issue as for other champions, because you still get to banish 2 arcane cards. So you still get the level.
That's true. Ooh, careful study.
Oh, it's good.
We're gonna start drawing a lot of cards here.
And the usual chip in for 1 with dungeon guide.
And for those of you at home who are not super used to playing against Rai, as you can see, he draws a lot of cards, right? Your best friend is probably Tithe Proclamation.
Yeah, I would say definitely. But as a right player, you just have to watch as your opponent also draws a lot of cards, because you would be limiting yourself very much so as well with Tithe Proclamation.
Yeah, Tithe is actually interesting though, because you can Tithe, and the Gloamspire counts towards the Tithe.
True. Yeah.
See the
This
banishment.
just goes to level 2. It's also 1 Peer into Mana and 2 arcane cards.
3 down for Dungeon Guy.
Dungeon Guy, what a standard dry games here. It's been they also never failed to find the Dungeon Guide of their deck.
Yeah, I couldn't see what the second card was there, but there's Spell Shield Arcane advantage.
I think it's an Arcane Blast and a Spell Shield Arcane.
That's nice. So we're gonna see level 7 for both players. Pretty neutral playing field right now, but that Scry is good value.
That is what you want to see right here. Set up your next few turns, possibly.
Yeah, so Kaven went from feeling pretty ahead there, the level 2 banishment into Dungeon Guide, to potentially being on the back foot here. Sean, did go first in the situation, does have Gloamspire if he wants to kind of pull an extra card through if he needs it from his Scry.
Yeah.
But, the first person to start stacking their deck for whatever they need
Yeah,
is going to have a pretty good step forward.
Yeah, for right, I think that's a very big deciding factor. Who gets to look through their whole deck first, decide what you want to draw for the next couple of turns. And I saw some arcane cards be left on top, but I didn't exactly catch what they were, unfortunately. But yeah, this Dungeon Guy chips in for 1 Esper as always. Slowly, sometimes that 1 damage, that 1 damage a turn from Dungeon Guy really does matter. Especially in longer games. It's what they're going to push you through. Because it's like Safeguard Amulet also doesn't stop the 1 damage from Dungeon Guy.
I love the respect both players here are showing for the ability to find a kill turn really fast, right?
Yeah.
We see the Dungeon Guy, Materialization is going to be like level 1, level 2, Dungeon Guide to 3, or Dungeon Guide to 2 in some cases, go natural level 3. And then I'm going to bring out a Safeguard Amulet because I'm afraid you're going to kill me immediately.
Yeah,
I know you only have an influence of 4 and a Gloamspire, but, there's no reason to take risks.
Yeah, Right can do right things and be very
Is that
quick.
an Arcane Disposition?
It is an Arcane Disposition.
Ooh, Arcane Disposition is kind of spicy.
It is. I think it's a great card. It's a fantastic card. It's 3 cost, draw 3,